You're there. I really like it.
I'm here.
Without the star, it's usually difficult to start, if you know what I mean. But anyways, hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to SDA. Thank you for joining us. You know, like for some, it's a little earlier, so for some, it's a little later. I'm super excited to be here. I love doing these things, I'm telling you. And I hope that you guys had a relaxing summer, that business has come back, and that you guys are remaining healthy. You know, I guess as we get older and we see a lot of our friends getting sick and passing, you know, I'm saying that because we lost during the summer Dean Swift, who was a dear friend from my. He was the president of my Micrilium, you know, and he wasn't that old. So, you know, health number one, you know, like, and then relaxation and business, it's okay. It's a good combinations. I would like to thank, of course, our sponsors. Okay. Today we have Central Dental. It was really a tradition in the denturist industry, the technical industry, UDS, and then Plus. Okay. And so we're back to school, and so are we. There's lots of activity going on, guys. It is unbelievable. And all our courses, especially the clinical ones, you know, the ones with the dentist, because they're in the same situation as we all are. You know, like a CAD/CAM and digital is impacting everybody, and everybody's trying to stay ahead of the curve, of the learning curve, and the courses are filling up. Just a few reminders, you know, like, I mean, we're working at SDA, DTA, and also TIA, because TIA is the Toronto Implant Academy, and it impacts you guys because once I took over, I used to have a partner, but once I took over, I think it's extremely important that both technicians and denturists get a chance to see what the dentists are doing. This year, because there's a lot of interest, the dentists want to come in the SDA and the DTA, some of them. So I gotta open up SDA and DTA to dentists. So, you know, like, and we're gonna market it to them. So I'm sure we're gonna have more dentists coming in. Like the whole thing, the blend, you know, like it's really unbelievable. You know, like, and the partnership of the professions is coming in very, very good. A reminder, you know, like this week, you know, like, I mean, this coming week, PYP is going on, talking about education going on Niagara on the Lake at White Oaks. Preparations, you'll be receiving the program for Spectrum Day Toronto. They're finalized. We have an amazing program. October 28th, okay, October 28th. Again, it's free admission, free parking. We're gonna have a cocktail party. We're gonna have a DJ at the end of the day. There are 2 rooms for denturists. We break it down in 4 tracks. So we have a track for denturists, a track for technician, a track for dentist, and a track for hygienist. So, and there's a lot of overlapping going on. Okay, the program is outstanding. Again, it's free. Please attend. Please get your points. Just this week, I've had phone calls. You know, like, I hate to say this, okay. I've had phone calls for people looking for CE points. Well, where am I going to get? You got to go to school, and I'm not going to give you the points. Well, you know, the college is checking me. I need this thing by next Wednesday. Good for you. Aren't you a member? Did you lose your certificates? No, I'm not a member. And how many do you need? 90. Good luck. You know what I mean? It is, you know, like, those are the rules, and you got to stick by. This is your professional responsibility. And I'm not going to lie for anybody, you know, just to get points. It's ludicrous for the people that get up, you know, and they listen and they're serious. And so if you're not serious about your career, that is a problem. Okay. So, you know, the one thing that I was really excited about, guys, I received an honorary diploma from George Brown College. If you have seen the last issue of Spectrum Denturism and also Spectrum Dialogue, okay, you know, like, in one of them, I think in the Dentures, I put myself on the cover with the dean, the chancellor, you know, like all these highfalutin guys for George Brown. It was a hoot. And so they gave me this thing, you know, in recognition of what we've done for the profession, you know, however, you know, they also asked me if I would speak in front of convocation. Now it's 3 years they had not done convocation. 2 years. 2 years they were going into the third, and we had 1,000 people. I just loved it. I loved it. The thing was, like at first I was ready. They said, well, can you say a few words to the graduating class? Blah, blah. I used to do it on a regular basis when Bernie Mullen was alive, and it was at George Brown, both for denturists and technicians. And I used to do it for, Central usually has a party once a year for student, third-year student. I used to go in, and I used to love doing it. And Joe, buys the wine, the beer, the pizza, and they come into Central Dental. And then, everybody needs a little motivation, okay? Just like taking a shower every day. People say, well, does it last? If you take a shower, does it last? You got to take one tomorrow, So, but anyways, it was a hoot. I love it. I'm going to put it with my MBA, degree, and my advanced degree in marketing, and my degree from U of T in teaching. I'm going to put the George Brown diploma there. I'm one of you guys now, for the people that graduated from George Brown, and I feel very honored. Anyways, let's go back to today. I don't want to take much more time. We have 3 great speakers, entertaining. The same rules applies. Okay, guys, you guys are going to be muted. Okay, and I'm going to turn your video off. Save your questions if you have for the end, but you can ask as they come up. And then I will moderate, and I will read the questions to Lisa. Lisa will answer them. If there are too many, then she will reply personally, okay, like on a one-to-one basis. So save those, except for the last speaker, who today we're lucky enough to have Patrick Strong, okay? He wants to have a free-for-all where you can ask, okay, whatever you like, whenever you want, and I will moderate, okay, and I will talk to them. I think that's basically it. Let me just tell you about Lisa. I like her bubbly personality. She spoke for the first time. I didn't know who she was, and I said, oh yeah, Joe, she's got a lot of energy and good information. And then, at Spectrum Day Halifax, she really surprised me, but she was playing at home. Okay. And it was just wonderful. We had a good time, and the competitors had a good time. Everybody was participating. It's just terrific. Lisa, she's been practicing denturism since she graduated from NATE in 2010. She owned and operated a denture clinic, okay, in several provinces across Canada. She also worked. Her focus the last 4 years has been learning the different digital dentures workflows and the impact they will have on advancement of removable prosthetic. For you guys, if you look at the future of removable prosthetics is very, very rosy. So you know what? You just got to embrace how you're going to deliver the goods. But you guys are in a good profession. Lisa strives for knowledge and is passionate to learn and then share this information. This is why we like her so much. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to you. One, thank you for me to Central Dental. Like I said, they are a tradition. Okay. She is, like a Joe Smith, we're friends, so I've known Joe now since I got into the business 25, 26 years. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about the guy, and I guess that's the way he runs his business. But they too, Central Dental too, and other companies too, they've had to accept the shift towards digital technology. And now they provide the latest, like in digital printers and milling machines and everything else, continuing with the products that they always sold. I guess, it's a balance. So I thank you to Central Dental and Joe Smith and Lori Smith. And now, Lisa, it's all yours.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I know it's probably earlier for you than it is for me, because here in Newfoundland, it's just about 10 after 10 this morning. So I'm a little bit more awake than you guys are. Today, we're going to talk about something that I really love to talk about. It's enhancing the aesthetics of digital dentures, as well as any denture, using the Bredent red and white composite kit. It's very art heavy. As we know, a lot of the denturism business is very artistic. So you really get to create some beautiful pieces of work by using some of the composites that we have and layering them on top of your digital denture. So we're going to go through a few scenarios, how to layer the technique of the red and white kit from Bredent, as well as I'm going to show you how to cut back a digital denture using FCAD software. Any questions that you have, please let us know. Like I said, and Tori said, we'll get to them in the end. I will be at PYP next week. We're actually going to be doing a hands-on course with this Bredent stuff as well. And I will be speaking as well at Spectrum Day Toronto, which I've never been. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So let's just dive in here now. So we use the Bredent red and white kit to help demonstrate your artistic techniques to help you produce more realistic and lifelike digital dentures, specifically on the gingival tissues. Especially now with Canadians being such a multicultural and diverse country, colored aesthetics is becoming more and more important for gingiva. While I was working in Saskatoon, I had a friend of mine who come and ask, because we had the Bredent red and white kit in the office, and said, I have a patient with a one-tooth partial, except her gingiva is almost like purple in color. So he came over and we kind of sat down and started mixing some colors in with this. And we were actually able to blend in and create a bit of a flange on a one-tooth partial in the front that matched quite well. So this has plenty of room in this profession. So here pictured is the kit. This is a brand new kit that would come if you order one from Central, or Dentline is our company that sells our Bredent products. And included in the kit, you actually get quite a bit of material. So the cartridges are our Creoline gel cartridges, and they have 5 of them. So they come in light pink, red, and rosa, and lilac. There's also a beige color as well, which we'll explain as we get further into it. There's an opaquer, a bottle of modeling liquid, a bottle of Visiolink, which is the primer, which I'll talk about later as well. You get a brush, a mixing block, as well as a really awesome cartridge that has a UV light on it for easy curing. You will see that that will become more valuable to you later on. You put the cartridge in, you squeeze the material out, you make it look nice and fancy however you want it, and then the little gun has a little light. It's quite an awesome little feature. A lot of people are really excited about that. So included in the kit as well is you get this this chart to display how to do a very basic Creoline, Visiolink, red and white kit layering scheme. This sounds cheesy. You create smiles layer by layer. And it's true, and that's what you do. Because the first couple layers that you put on, that beige that you see there, it looks a little funny. But by the time you get to the end, you can create the most beautiful lifelike gingiva I've ever seen. I started working with this material without actually having professional training on it. So the more and more training that I get, the more and more it makes sense, and the better that you get at it. The first couple little models that I did, not understanding the materials, not understanding the curing times, they look a little wonky in the beginning, but now they actually look quite incredible. So this is something that you could create with the Creoline, this photo that we have here. And the indications for use is to customize restorations. We're not all the same. Our mouths aren't all the same. We've known this for years. So we can use our red and white kit to add character as well as texture, color match the gingiva, and you create lifelike stains or cracks on teeth. You can really get into customizing dentures or any sort of prosthetic with this material. So they're going to need a few extras that don't come in the kit. The disposable micro brushes I use in small. I highly recommend those when you're using Visiolink and primers. The disposable ones, you just toss them away after. Alcohol spray, you will need to rub off. I use the alcohol to clean the brushes in between, as well as clean the glass plate that comes with it as well. 2x2 gauze. Gloves are going to become important as well. You don't want to touch this with your hands. A curing wand and a curing unit. So this unit that we have here is our Brelux Unit 2. It's a very, very nice looking unit. We had an original Brelux unit. It was yellow. I think a lot of people have had those as well. This new one still has a lot of the same features, as in like a pre-programmed for the exact timing of the cures that you need for each section. So looking a little closer at it, so we have pre-programmed time for each material. So 90 seconds, 180 seconds, and 360 are your total times for this. It does come with an optional handheld curing wand for ease of use. The wand just kind of slips on the top and you push the button in your hand there. So if you don't have another curing wand, this one comes with the option of having that as well. It's very light. It looks really nice. It doesn't take up much space. It's very versatile in the sense of you can cure a lot of things in it. It has a rotary table inside to help make sure you get the perfect little, it goes all the way around to get a good cure. The light bulbs that are inside of it, the LEDs, they're 72 and they give you 20,000 hours, which is about 12 years of service. So it's not something that you'll need to replace often. It has a very big drawer to accommodate multiple appliances or restorations. You could probably fit, I would say, 3 dentures in it at once, maybe 4, depending on how big they are. And it's totally silent. You can't even hear it while it's running. Getting started, you need to set up a workstation. The importance of this, the Bredent red and white kit and the composites that you're going to layer is everything needs to be very clean. So set up a workstation, put your paper down, get your materials out there, make sure your light cure's plugged in easy reach of where you need it to be, have your wand if you're going to have one, clean your hands or wear gloves. I prefer to wear gloves. We all know the oils in our hands can have a reaction with some of the materials that we work with. You don't always have to wear gloves, just don't touch the areas that you're working on. Make a shade guide. You can purchase a shade guide, but I was trained by a lovely technician named Albert who thought it was quite easy to just make your own shade guide. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. Take intraoral pictures for color match of gingiva. It becomes very important so you can see exactly what it is that you're trying to do, because no two will ever be alike because everyone's different. The colors are different. Doesn't matter how many times that you do this, it will look different every time. Practice makes perfect to get it really right the way that you want it to be. And then we also have to do a cutback of your restoration and then sandblast the intended working area. Careful not to nick the teeth. So this is what we talk about when we make a shade guide. So I laid out all the materials here that we had. And you can see you take a piece of paper, you take a little bit of each material, you dab it on there, and then you put it in the curing unit. It gives you a visualization, helps you be able to see what you're doing, especially if you intend to mix colors. The colors of the cartridges all look very similar. So sometimes when you're just beginning, you're like, is this pink or is this light? You don't really know. So put a little dab on the paper, show your own little reference so you can see your own shade guide that you have there, and have your intraoral pictures there as well so you can reference them easily and get the colors that you absolutely need. And you can create colors and mix them together to create a unique texture as well and a unique color. So here at Central Dental, we are FCAD resellers. I've personally been working with FCAD for about 3 years now. I've worked with 3Shape as well as Dentsply's in-lab software for digital. And you can use and do a cutback in all 3 of the programs that I am aware of. I'm going to show you how to use it, how to do a cutback on the FCAD software where you reduce the thickness of the denture, creating room for the material that you're going to add. We know as denturists and technicians that thick dentures don't always fly with patients. That's one of the things that they have a big issue is they say, oh, it's really thick, especially in the labial flange. If you don't reduce any material before you add some, your patient's going to look like they got a little cotton ball in between their lips. So you need to make sure that if you're going to add material, you need to remove some so that you have room. Now, I always suggest that you do a very flat surface cutback so you can create not only textures, but festoons, gingival rolls, and things like that. There are other softwares out there that create very detailed gingiva on the restoration. You could also cut that back just a little bit, leaving some of the outlines so you know where to put your material as well. I have a really short video showing an FCAD cutback here. It's not long, it's about 3 minutes. My good partner Ria up in Central in Toronto, she's a digital technician as well. She helped me with that. So let's see if I can get this going.
I'm Ria, and I'm going to show you how you can cut back your denture when you design it digitally. So at this point, we finished our design, and we're going to go ahead and freeform our restoration. Denture was already slightly characterized, so we're going to go remove some of that denture-based material for Lisa. So we're going to be working on our gingiva and we'll select that. The first thing that we want to do is to tuck away some of that gingiva, like we're playing with putty. Let's go ahead and do that. It's important to look at your work from the side. So you can actually see what you're working with over here. And at this stage, we can remove as little or as much as we want. And we'll be fine-tuning this cutback a little bit too. Once we're happy with these large changes, we're going to go polish up what we've done so far. We're going to go to our freeform stage, and this is your waxing up step. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my alcohol torch and smooth away any roughness that we may have introduced in the previous stage. And this is what we have so far. If we wanted to, we can also use our waxing tools on the left here to remove material. It would just take a little longer, but it's also more precise. If we're happy with our cutback, we're going to go ahead and we're going to save our changes. I'm going to show you what we did here. So these are our two dentures. The one on the left is the slightly characterized face. And you can see it's a little bumpy. That's more character. And then on the right here, we've removed some material and we've also smoothened it down. I'll just give you a little side-by-side comparison there. And again, we could have removed some more material or less. This just depends on how you want it to look and how much material you're also adding. Let's see what Lisa has to say.
So yeah, that's just a video showing you how to do a cutback. Like I said, 3Shape as well as InLab both have ways to reduce the amount of thickness on the denture as well. I like to show that because, like I said, so much of them, if you're adding so much material, you need to make sure that it's not too thick. So I always like to show how to reduce the material digitally so you can add your material comfortably and not having to worry about making the denture too thick. So there's a couple tips. Once you have your cutback done, or if you're doing this on a conventional denture, would be to just use a burr and reduce the thickness. Next, you have to sandblast. My tips for sandblasting, because I've made some mistakes using the sandblaster. If you cover up your teeth, because you're sandblasting just the gingiva, put a piece of tape over the teeth or cover them with your gloved finger. Most of you will know that if you've sandblasted and you take that sandblaster over the teeth, you'll see a line go right across those beautiful incisors that you just worked so hard to put in there. I even think about things like people using the carded teeth inside of milled denture bases. You can't just remill a set of teeth if you kind of mess them up with the sandblaster. So always use your finger, or I like to use a piece of tape over top of the teeth, so you don't have to worry about any sort of divots or lines coming into those beautiful teeth that you work so hard on. And don't touch any of the sandblasted areas again with your hands. That's why I recommend wearing gloves, because the oils will get in there, and certain oils on your hands will stop the bonding process from the primer from the bond, the acrylic to the composite. So yeah, I don't want any fingers or gloved or ungloved hands touching that. So now we come to VisioLink. Some of you may have heard of this. It's quite a popular primer that Bredent has designed to create a cohesive bond of the composites to the PMMA. This is very important in the Bredent red and white system. This will be, it's like liquid gold to you. You don't need very much, but it is the most important part. If this is forgotten, it won't work. You have to do this at the beginning. It's a very light layer. You use your little micro brush onto the tray that you have. So this is a micro brush. And just go over the area very, very lightly. You don't need much of this stuff. A bottle of this will last a very long time because it's a less is more kind of thing. I had someone explain to me that if you can see a shine, you've used too much Visiolink. So it's a very thin amount to all surfaces that you wish to add color. And then you must cure for 90 seconds. This is also important. If you don't cure it, the bond will not be there. You do not need to Visiolink in between the layers of the composite. So when you're switching colors, you don't need to add the primer. If you say, you know, I need to take more of a cut back off and I want to start over and I want to grind it away again, any area that you grind, you must use Visiolink before you start again. It's just the important part to make sure that everything links together the way that it should. So once you're done with your Visiolink over your surface, you get to start with what we call the modifier beige. And again, I was like, good Lord, why are we using beige? It makes perfect sense. It's used to represent like the bony eminence that come from the roots of the teeth. So the material inside the gun, so this is the cartridge here that has the cartridge holder, that has the light here in it. The little purple, you push that and that's the light. So what I would do is you roll the material through your fingers and you get a little tiny line come out of the material. Then I take the brush, sometimes you dip it in the modeling liquid if you need it to move a little more. And then I would smooth and feather the material to the desired shape. So the shape that we use with our beige is usually a long triangle to kind of, like I said, emulate the bone of portion of the tooth, of the root of the tooth, sorry. So that's what you want to use your beige for. And then cure each layer for 180 seconds. The beige is something that you can cure 180 seconds right away, because once it's on there, you really don't need to manipulate it. The rest of the colors that we add, I usually recommend we do a tack, which is just a quick 10-second cure, preferably using the cartridge holder with the light attached to it. If you don't, the 180 cure we use after we're done colors. Sometimes you'll want to take the color that's not overly cured, add another color on top, and then bring the color from the bottom on top, up above to the other color. It's an incredible compilation of colors that you can get going to make it just an absolute beautiful restoration. So now we go to our lilac. It adds depth to the restoration. You start at the mucobuccal fold and go towards the teeth. You thin out with a brush and you light cure for 180 seconds. So you can see from the picture where we're taking the little bubbles of material, you control how much material comes out. And then your brushes will definitely be able to start feathering and fanning out the material up to create the desired look as well. Brushes are very important. I've tried brushes that you get from a art supply store and things like that. They don't tend to work as well because you need a very fine tip brush. I've used the lesser expensive brushes from like the dollar store, and that's a huge mistake as well because the bristles will come out into your restoration. So I always recommend using brushes provided through in the kit or ones that you order extra through Bredent. So next we do pink. Pink is applied over the previous layers. So again, if you did not cure the lilac underneath for 180 seconds, you can then put your material in there and pull the color up through the pink, kind of making more definition, and you can see the different textures that you can make that way, as well as lighter and darker in certain areas as well. And you can cure for 180 seconds if you're happy with it, or just tack it in a small little area with your 10-second quick tack. And then your next layer, you may want to move your pink around to make it deeper from the top to the bottom layers. This is my favorite color. This is what we call gum rosa. This is the closest color that I have found to most of the denture acrylics that we use. So like Lucitone 199, when you're using like making conventional dentures, if you want to use this for any sort of definition or conventional restorations, Gum Rosa is usually the color that I use that's closest to the conventional denture pink material. And this one will accentuate the alveolar sockets. Check the thickness of your side profile. Like Ria had said during the cutback video, it's important to look at your work from the side. When you have a work in your hands, it's easy to see, are you getting the definitions that you wanted? Is it too thick in areas? Is it too thin? So always use the side profile, move your restoration around to make sure you're creating what it is that you want it to look like. And then again, a 180 seconds cure. Then we go to red. Red is used to add prominent definition and rich natural color to the gingiva, but it's also veins or blemishes that could appear in the mouth. Red is the color that you would begin to mix more with lila if you were looking to get a deeper, a darker, more of a purple tint to the gingiva. And again, cure for 180 seconds. You can add as little or as less of this as you want. It depends on the look that you're trying to create. Light. Light is a beautiful color as well. It's applied to the gingival margin and to properly pronounce the roll, and you cure for 180 seconds. So you want to go really close to the teeth and then kind of fan it out there as well. So there's a couple optional ones, but this is a good time to put this one in here. We have an optional called Transpera. It's clear. Most of the time, some people use it as a glaze. Some people use it because it gives a most beautiful shine after you polish it up. Be careful with this though, because it could add thickness that you don't necessarily want. So this one doesn't come in the kit, but you can purchase this one on its own. I also had a gentleman give me a little bit of information as we were doing a hands-on course of this. And he said, after you have the Transpera put on there, he takes an old toothbrush and just kind of dabs it in around his restoration. And that's kind of what creates stippling with a toothbrush. So I thought that was pretty neat. So I figured I would share that with you as well. So finish with burrs and polish. So here is the kit that you can purchase for Bredent that comes with a little bit. It's a polishing agent. You can see there's a couple of burrs, an inverted cone, a couple polishing agents as well. So here we are when we did this hands-on course at Central, when I took some training. The gentleman who trained me said his name was Albert. He's going to be coming with me to PYP as we do this kind of together. So these are his hands as he's working with this. And to me, it was just absolutely amazing to watch the finesse that he had. I didn't have the finesse that he had first when this started because I had never really been formally one-on-one trained, but watching his hands and his skills is quite remarkable. So he's actually going to be giving the hands-on course with me at PYP, and he's going to be doing a live demonstration as well. So you will get to see all of these tools used one-on-one there as well. He also taught me something really awesome, which was characterizing the teeth using the Visio paint system. This is an extra add-on that you can purchase as well. He uses the inverted cone to create crack-like lines in the tooth for colored stains. You do need to sandblast and Visio link for 90 seconds after that. And you use the paint to create fracture lines, translucent incisal edges, yellow stains around the neck. Cure for 90 seconds and polish with a rubber wheel. Your final cure is 360 seconds. I don't know why they just don't say 5 minutes, but it's 5 minutes. Inside the Brie Lux unit, I would put it in the machine, have the rotator go all the way around just to get a nice solid cure in between there. You can't over cure this, so if you put it in there and you can't remember if you push the button or not, you can always do it a second time. Then when it comes out, it usually has quite a bit of a sticky film over the top. So then I would use a 2x2 gauze with a little bit of that rubbing alcohol and take all the sticky inhibition layer off in between. This is the final product. You can look closely at the canine and see where he has created such a beautiful definition to make it look natural. You could take even the most basic of tooth and turn it into a work of art. And that's what I love so much about this system. So some things that you need to keep in mind. Oh, how do I go back? So practice makes perfect. You are not going to be perfect at this at first. You're gonna, it's a training process, like most of the things in the denturism world. No two cases will ever be alike. You are creating individualized smiles every time you reach for these products. It's not just dentures. Like I told you about that flipper that we had for a patient. There's so many uses for this stuff as well. You'll find that you'll be in your office and say, you know, what can I use in certain indications? And then you just think, oh, I have my Bredent kit there. Let's see if there's anything in that I can use. So I definitely strongly encourage people to have the kit in the office because there's multiple uses. Keeping in mind, if you cure and then you think something just doesn't look right and you wish to grind it, you must sandblast and Visiolink again. So the same thing, 90 seconds with the Visiolink, sandblast, wear gloves. The primer becomes very important in this, so you don't want to do anything to jeopardize the bond. This technique will become very important if a patient has a very high or a gummy smile, even unconventional dentures. There have been times when, you know, we've all done things to try and help people with very high smiles. I've watched people, you know, we've all cut flanges off and things like that, hoping that to make the patient's actual gum maybe stick out and things like that. This kit can help you make the gummy smile look as natural as possible. So it's very important. It's a tool that you can use when someone comes in that you say, you know, you're going to see the gingiva of your denture, but I can make it look real nice for you. So that's a way that you can also promote premium characterized dentures, digital or conventional. It's an added step. We call it gingival toning or characterization or something along those lines. That is another way for you to help upsell your denture. It's an extra time. It's an extra process. It's an extra cost. So that's another way you could use this as well. The 10-second quick cure in small sections, then the final 180 cure in between colors, followed by the final 360 cure once all of the colored layers have been put on there as well. So I know we finished up a little early because this is quite, it's not a big process. It's a learning curve to it. You kind of have to get on your own, pick up the materials, feel them, put them in your hands, roll the cartridge inside the holder and see how fast the material comes out. You'll notice that the materials, they last a very long time because you're using pea-sized little amounts of the materials there. So the investment is something that's going to last for such a long time. It's multi-use and things, you know, things like that. There's plenty of uses for you to use this in your office. So yeah, I guess I finished up a little earlier, Tori. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how quick it was going to go.
It's okay. I mean, there's a question. Let me see if there was let me read you the question. One came in for Itzia, I think it is. Yeah, Itzia. Can we use this product in regular acrylic?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You absolutely can. So if you were taking a conventional denture, let's say it's a processed conventional denture, you take that out, you would grind the surface. If you want to make it flat, you can grind in your festoons that you want, just reducing some material. Give yourself a little pathway to follow. As long as you sandblast it and then Visiolink it, you can then add the materials onto conventional dentures that way as well. It's beautiful. I used to see a couple patients in practice that used to come from Brazil. And a big thing in Brazil at that time was clear dentures with individualized stains and tones on top of it. So we actually tried a couple and beautiful, beautiful work. So the clear is great because when the patient opens their mouth, they see their natural palate. but you add some staining just around the teeth of a conventional clear denture. Oh, the results you get from that are just breathtaking. They're beautiful. It's the most natural thing that you can get. So you absolutely can use it, no problem.
Lisa,
Yes.
I have a question on the gentleman that's gonna be working with you at PYP. Okay.
Okay.
So is he a technician or is he a denturist?
He is a technician.
He's a technician, yeah.
He's a
Because
technician.
like I'm confused, and I usually ask everybody, like I mean, is there a shift towards technicians becoming denturists? I never see denturists going back to school to become technician. I open this one to everybody.
It's true.
Okay. I never see a denturist going back to school to become a technician, but there are a lot of technicians going back to school to become denturists. I don't know why. In Europe, they don't exist, right? In Europe, they only have removable technicians, which are really denturists. And maybe Carlo Zanon can help me, like, I mean, or the people that are, in the audience, the attendees. But this is what I see. What do you think, Lisa?
I think there's a big shift of technicians that are becoming denturists as well. And the reason being is, I personally think they are behind the scenes so much. They're the ones putting a lot of the love and the characterization, and they're the ones building these most beautiful prosthetics and things like that. Yet, I guess this is going to sound a little bit, yet they don't get any of the glory. They don't get to see their beautiful work go inside the patient's mouth. They don't get the thank you letters that the patients bring in when you've created a smile that they're glowing about. Technicians, they're behind the scenes. You're seeing a lot of them are changing career paths and coming forward. I think a lot of it too is the ownership of business. If you are a technician that works with the denturist, you get to see all the benefits that a denturist will make owning the practice. If you're a technician in a big lab, you never get any patient interaction. So you don't get to see any of your hard work come to life. You don't get to see all of the stuff that, people cry sometimes when you make them new dentures. You've had people look in the mirror who, especially immediate dentures or first time, or people who really didn't like their smile. And you look in the mirror, and then when you see the patient's eyes overflowing with tears, like that kind of gets you. That's why we do this. That's why I did this business. You want to help people. So I think that the shift in technician is for several reasons. One, because the technicians are taking so much pride in their work that they want to see it for themselves. The other, being an entrepreneur and owning a clinic is another thing as well. I think that's why a lot of them I know a few people that are amazing denturists. And the reason why they're amazing denturists is because they were incredible technicians beforehand. So the shift it makes sense in my opinion. Plus, good technicians are really hard to find. Really hard to find. Doing my journey around the Maritime provinces, speaking with laboratory owners, clinic owners, good help is very hard to find, especially on the Maritimes. I have a really good friend of mine who's a really prominent technician that I know quite well. And she told me she keeps in contact with her schoolmates from the last 15 years. And I think there's only 3 of them that are actually started the technician program, who graduated as technicians that are still working in the field. So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of the shift from technicians.
There's a comment here, I think from Carlo Zanon, just said, the best denturists hands down were technicians at one time.
Absolutely.
The thing for me right now, what I find confusing, looking at the thing, is that I can see the blend. I can see the blend from Bahar. Bahar, this thing stopped on its own.
We can still hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So let me finish then my thought, because, all of a sudden it disappeared. I thought she had pushed something trying to reach Ben. And so, now when I heard you say this thing that, the smile is created layer by layer. This is the language that technicians use, like we're layering, we're layering. So then all of a sudden I said, man, what's going on? So I am confused because as we move on, is there gonna be a blend where technicians and denturists will become one? Like in Europe, it's a removable technicians, right? And they're really denturists, but they're not as good as the denturists in finishing the product. So I am a little confused right now. I'm telling you, with the with the CAD CAM and the printers, and when I see this blend, it confuses me, But it's interesting you say, yeah, the guy has good hands, and that's why I said, is this guy a technician? And he is. I have another question, then we'll go on. Wait, how does this compare to Ivoclar Nexco?
I haven't worked with the Ivoclar Nexco much at all, so I don't really have an answer for that. I've only been working with this. I've been very fortunate that the offices that I've worked for have all had the Bredent composite red and whites. So I've been a little bit spoiled in my whole career that I haven't had to work with anything else other than the Bredent kits. They're quite common in Western Canada, believe it or not. Both of the offices that I worked with, one in Saskatchewan and one in Alberta, both had them. So I was able to kind of use them that way, but I can't give you a comparison from the Ivoclar one because I haven't used it personally and don't know much about it. So I wouldn't want to give you any advice that way because I don't really know. But I did kind of want to say when you were speaking about the technician part as well, back to that, the greatest denturists have become technicians. However, I've had a lot of technicians in the last, like during my rounds, specifically dealing with digital. And I had one gentleman a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of pulled me aside. He said, you're coming in here and using a lot of these digital equipment with us and teaching us how to use this digital equipment. He said, like, am I going to have a job next year? And I was so glad that he asked me that because he's not the only one. There's been a couple of technicians that I've heard say, oh my goodness, when this digital stuff comes in, well, I'm going to be out of a job. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Once this digital comes in, your job may change, but it's probably going to be for the better. The couple of people that I do know, the technicians that are doing fully digital now, say, I would never go back to wax and stone again. So the technician's role in dentistry is going to change. They're probably not going to be sitting there setting teeth so much anymore, but they may be now doing more layering of composite resins to make the denture that they've created a more premium version. So technicians are becoming vital, but their roles are absolutely changing as well in the removable field. So that's something I've had a couple of technicians, like I said, they said, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. One lady said, I went home and made up a resume. Your jobs are just going to change. They're probably going to change for the better. You might be taking pucks in and out of mills and 3D printers and things like that, but the technician is not going anywhere. Good help is hard to find. You're always going to need technicians, and people are always looking for them. Digital technicians are going to be more valuable coming up around as well. People that are, I have experience with mills and printers, because as we know, that's the way that it's going. So I think the job of the technician will change.
I want to read another comment again from the question on the comparison came from our friend Joy de la Marina. Joy, it's nice to see you participating. I love it when I see you there. Another comment that Carlo made is, technician seems to be controlled by the market that is dictated by the dentist. So true, especially prices. Denturists are independent, and that is a benefit for the denture on the denture side. I tell you, because I am not a technician and I'm not dental. I mean, I become dental through osmosis and through reading and all these articles. However, the relationship between dentist and technician always confused me. I couldn't, because keep in mind, I'm looking at from the outside in. I could never understand, because if I want to buy my glasses, okay, if I want to buy my glasses, what I do is I go and I get a prescription, and then I go to Akeem, I go to Loblaws, I go to Costco, I get a price, I do it. In dentistry, okay, you need something, it's the dentist that sends you to the lab they want, okay? And that is, it creates a relationship that is really subservient from one to the other guy to the other. You know, does it happen? Not in all cases, but they complain. Talking about what Lisa said about the future is that, you know, you guys, if you follow what's going on, you know that, Shaw Lab Group, which is fairly large, you know, like, I mean, very large. They bought Protec, okay, in Vancouver, and I think Protec is over 300 employees, and Shaw is over 100. So I think now the Shaw Protec lab combination is the largest in Canada. But what I noticed, it's not, you know, like these things coming together. What I noticed is that the Bank of Montreal invested in both of them 25%. So for the people, you know, if you know how difficult it is for us, you know, to get money for our mortgages from the bank, you know that the bank, they do their due diligence most of the time. Okay, so if they're investing in dental technology, okay, and they all have denture department to these big labs, okay, you know that they see the future. They're ahead of us. Okay, so that's the way I see it. Going back to the Creoline and Visioline, okay, guys, I have some spectacular articles that I'm gonna send them to my editor, Carlo Zanon, and I'm gonna say, Carlo, can we get these things approved? You know, because I usually run it by him because I'm non-dental, but they are spectacular. Okay, so, and we'll publish them in the next few issues of of Spectrum Denturism. Okay, keep in mind, you know, there's a test that you can do in the denturism to get your points. So, you know, like we will put those things in there, Visioline, Creoline, and I know Joe is pushing, Central Dental is pushing the Bredent line in Canada, but worldwide, Bredent is a power force.
Huge
Products. They are a powerful entity. Okay, so, and I think they're gonna be able to capture the market here. Let me tell you let's go back to the honorary degree. I just got insulted. You know, Carlos said, oh, you can work for me. And what is it? What did you say? Poor models? Are you kidding? I want to go at the top. I'm one of those new graduates, Carlo. I'm not going to just poor models. You know, I want to be the boss immediately. Anyways, you know, actually, I tell you something, we had a couple of labs that phone me goes, doesn't mean, because, you know, when I get upset with the labs and they say, oh, the future is not there, we should not be there. I always say, look, if you want to sell, tell me, I'll find you a buyer, you get out. You know what I mean? Because there is a future. So I had a couple of labs call me and goes, now with your market knowledge, are you really going to compete with us? No, I'm not. I could not be. You guys are too talented. You know, like this insurance and technician, what you do is unbelievable. Let me just go. Oh no, he says he's gonna make, no, this is Ben. Ben, be quiet. He goes, you would be the boss of the plaster room. Anyways, let me tell you what happened. So we go to this George Brown and we're invited at the dinner with all these highfalutin, you know, like the chancellor, the dean, the president. And so they're and the board of directors. And they're talking, you know, they're saying, you know, like, we really want to put George Brown in on top of the world, like, so that it's recognized all over. And I work in marketing before I left. I was high school, then I worked at York University, and I was the marketing guy for their ULE, English Language Institute. So, you know, and we used to do marketing at the global level. And so, you know, and they said, yeah, we would like to market at the global level. And, you know, the biggest benefit that they had, one of the biggest benefit that they had was that the university, the college is located in downtown Toronto, you know, and they said, you know, like, we would need some people that are recognized worldwide. So then when I had to speak twice. One was to address, you know, like the people that voted me in. I guess they could maybe take it back, you know, if they thought they had the wrong guy. And one was in front of the convocation of the students. So then I told them, I said, you know what? I think maybe you guys are not aware, but George Brown does have a presence, you know, in the Dentures world like at the global level. Their curriculum is copied by other countries. You get guys like Carlo Zanon, Mike McAllis going to the US to do teaching, supervising the exams. And well, these ones, maybe they're older guys, but now, you look at, Kukuchka, okay? And you look at Mark Chan, Eric Kukuchka and Mark Chan. And I remember these guys when I used to do the motivational speaking at George Brown and at Central. These guys, they are world renowned. Eric is a KOL for Ivoclar. He travels the world, and Mark is on demand like you won't believe. By the way, we're going to have Mark Chan with us October 22nd, and of course, a Spectrum Day. Mark is just an unbelievable guy, and everybody wants to talk to this guy. And I told him the first time he spoke for me, sponsored by Dentsply, I told Dentsply, do not bring this guy back again. He's a nutcase, because he's all over. I said, what the hell? Who is this guy? So they really loved it. I tell you something, the higher ups at George Brown, they loved the message to know that they are recognized, okay? They're recognized at the global level. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at now. I think this has been very, very informative. I love the fact, that you put the light, you shine the light on Creoline and Visiolink. I promise you guys, you're gonna get more of these things and more beautiful things on the on your magazine, on Spectrum Denturism. You should be receiving it. Okay, and keep in mind also the magazines, Lisa, and that's important for you. The magazines now are interactive, responsive. So, which means that, on the digital copies, you could communicate with Lisa and she will reply. Okay, so we're gonna work that out. And then when we have the articles, we won't get the author. Like we will get the article, and then you can ask questions. So, it will become interactive, responsive. But I will talk to Joe, and I'll tell him that I have the articles, and then we'll proceed from there. Lisa, thank you very much. I love your honesty and your creativity and your energy, which is that's why you finish early. Like you're so excited to deliver the message that So this is great. Okay, so we'll have you again, I'm sure. And I thank you, for stepping in for us. Okay.
It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. Like I said, if you need to reach out to me, Tori and Bahar can put you in touch with me. You will see me at PYP. You'll see me at Spectrum as well, Toronto. So thank you so much.
Lisa, are you in Newfoundland? Is that where you are?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good. Is it snowing there yet? No.
No, it's not snowing. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Enjoy it.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah. Ciao. Ben, is that you?
That's me, Tori.
Oh man, we go from talent to talent.
I'm bringing the bar low though. I'm lowering it.
Well, I gotta try to lift it up. Ben, we had. I guess you were aware. We did a course on FCAD with Domenico Cascione. Okay, who's a technician, like a year.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was a nightmare, a logistical nightmare, a huge success. Okay. We had 34 people sign up. We gave too much. We had 16 lectures. I was going crazy. Okay. I was going crazy on this thing every weekend, 16 days, and we charge an amount. Domenico says, oh, in the end, he goes, I guess I'm going to be paid about 18 cents an hour. That's what it was. Okay. He's lecturing, and we had a doctor that was helping him, and he was doing that. It was a Zoom presentation, and then they were able to get into the computers of the attendees and work them, so it was okay. They loved it. The attendees in the end, they really loved it. The reason why I did it with him was because it was the first time, he created a team at the Pasadena City College created a program that has beginners, intermediate, and advanced. I have never seen the intermediate, and it drives me crazy, okay? Because I'm a teacher and I look at from the logistic point of view. I only see either beginners and then advanced. And I'm saying to myself, well, how can a beginner all of a sudden do implant work, and all this stuff? And it seems to me so complicated without having the base of the intermediate, okay? So then I accepted it. I accepted it with with Domenico, and we did it. We're going to do it again, but he's going to condense it to 6 lectures, okay? But there's huge demand, and you know what I noticed? What I noticed that out of the 34, Ben, we had quite a few prosthodontists that took the course.
Yeah.
I think we had about 6 or 7 prosthodontists from Chicago for, like that. That was the logistic nightmare, because they were signing in from Georgia, from Nebraska, it was all over, right? So the time schedule, it was all crazy. They like the problem was not to upload the dongle, the educational dongle. The big problem was, hey, I'm in Nebraska. What time is the lecture for me? Like, I don't know what.
Yeah, the time zones. Yeah.
But anyways, there's a huge demand for this type of things. So I'm researching it more and more. You know that usually whenever you lecture for me, I always ask you at the end, in Edmonton, whatever we go, what is the difference between exocad and 3Shape? I've learned more and more what the difference is. I know that the Europeans prefer exocad more because of the, there's more and the flexibility and what it can do. So like it is good, and I'm happy that I got involved in this thing. So
to answer your question, Ettore,
yeah,
or your statement,
yeah,
I've noticed. So I've been lecturing for a long time, especially on exocad, and the room is always filled with either beginners or expert users, never intermediate. And there's a very simple reason for that. I feel like once you start with exocad, people are always, I guess, intimidated would be the word in the beginning with all the options, right? There's still that very simple workflow. As long as you follow the wizard, it's going to keep it simple. But there's a ton of options if you want them. And people want to just dive into the options almost right away. And there's this moment, and it always happens, and it's beautiful to see when it does happen, whether you're with exocad or not. If you just love watching people grow, there's this moment where it shifts from just that little Einstein light bulb, like the apple that falls for the gravity theory, just that, like, you just see ding, oh my God, I got it. And then all of a sudden they're jumping in expert mode and they're doing all these things. So it really goes from beginner to expert. I've rarely seen somebody stuck at the intermediate level.
really.
Yeah, it's just this, oh, I understand now. Now I can bring this in. I can do this. And you're like, yep. And then they're going, oh my God, I can do so many things. And you go, yep.
Yeah, Ben, there was a Dentures that started like that. He was so frustrated with uploading the dongle. But by the end, he just loved it. I think, like you, I think he saw the apple fall. The gravity theory made sense to him. He was so happy. I don't know how many times he thanked us. So anyways, I'm gonna introduce Ben, and then he's gonna do his presentation. Okay.
Yep.
And then we're okay. We're gonna be a little bit ahead of the time, but like we have Patrick Strong is also ready. And I would like to thank, of course, Ben, because like he comes in whenever I need him. He steps up and he does a great job. And I also UDS and Alex from UDS, the one of the partner and owner of Unique Dental Supplies, would like to say a few words at the end of the presentation. And so we will give him the time at that time at the end. If you have any questions, guys, you can send them during the presentation. And then Ben can handle them then, and then if you have them at the end, the same thing, like if sometimes, some speakers don't want to be interrupted. I would be one that doesn't want to be interrupted. Like some speakers love to be, like challenged and ask questions during the presentation. So we can do it that way.
And I'm one of those.
If you guys don't know Ben already, I'll give you a little bit of background. He's a Canadian sales manager and application support engineer with exocad. He's involved in the dental laboratory business for 20 years, and he's a specialist in dental CAD/CAM for 15 years. So, I mean, he's been certified and trained, listen to this, in all these systems: Coursera, 3Shape, Lava, Dental Wings, CEREC, exocad, dental softwares, some 3D. Did you make some of these up or what? Hyperdent.
No, I'm realizing that I'm gonna have to shorten this for you.
Roland, Zarek, Icor, and Nora Mills. That's unbelievable, okay? And it provides technical support and sales both remotely and on location across Canada and the US. And I know Ben, like very well now, we always spend time, we always joke, he's always willing to share experience and the knowledge that he has so that he can help, like technicians and denturists, as they embrace the new dental industry, because it is and it continues to evolve. Ben, I thank you. It's all yours, buddy. Do it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ettore. Thanks for the great intro. Thanks, Lisa, previously doing a great job. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. All right.
Okay, we see it, Ben.
Perfect. So I'm going to address first, I think it was a question or a discussion when Lisa was talking about the shift in basically in the digital field or in the dental field to digital, and people worried about losing their jobs, especially technicians. I think there's a shift, but as Lisa said, there's always going to be a need. I think much like initially when clinical practitioners decided to try and do it themselves, they realized that only certain units are good, or certain types of cases are really economically sound for them to do, and others not. Let's face it, a clinician's time is basically chair time. That's where the money is. It's seeing the patients, putting in the cases, doing, not necessarily completing and manufacturing the restorations. So whether that's having a technician in-house or employing a lab still, there's always going to be room for technicians. So please don't let this technology scare you into thinking that you're going to lose your job. But as Lisa said, it will be an adaptation period. So for digital dentures, we're going to jump in right away. And as Ettore said, please interrupt me as we go along. I don't mind. I love all my lectures to be organic and each one to be unique because of interaction. So first thing, we have the tried and true approach, the flasking, and that's the way it's been done for years and people are used to it. And there's kind of a comfort to it, right? So now the approach has always been, if you get a great technician, a great technician that designs nice festooning, nice carving around the teeth, great anatomy, and then you can hire basically somebody off the street to do the flasking and the processing, as long as you give them the steps and the right ratios, and then it's just finishing and polishing. Now, from my own experience, I know there's over polishing, but generally speaking, it's more the design that's important, the wax up, and all of that is really the important part. Now, when we shift to digital, what we're going to have is a different type of approach, where now I can teach anybody to design rather well, and as long as they follow steps, and just have somebody come in and do the quality maintenance, right? Look at the end at the aesthetics. But the manufacturing is going to be actually the most important part, because that's what's going to affect how I design things. And we're going to go through some of these so that you understand a little better how each one approach affects how I'm going to design. So these are the options we have right now. And we're going to go through each one slowly, and please, if you have any questions at each approach when I describe them, ask away. And then after that, I'm going to do a quick live demo of just designing an upper and a lower, and they will be horrible because I've been away from the bench, away from designing dentures day in, day out for, I want to say, almost 10 years now. But that being said, I want to show you how easy it is with the software, and then you can add your flavor, your style, your signature approach to the designs once you start. So the first approach is the printed base and carded teeth. So in all softwares, whether it's FCAD or not, we're reliant on tooth libraries. And that's going to be how we bring in these teeth, and then how how the base will adapt to whatever we select. So if we're using carded teeth, these will be called or referred to as locked, right? Because we cannot customize them because these are going to be bought. You're going to order these from the tooth companies, the Ivoclars, Vitas, all these things. So there's no way you can scale them. You can just change the positioning, but you can't really change the size of them and the angles and really customize them because that wouldn't apply anymore to what you're physically going to get. So here's what that would look like. If we print that base, we're going to have the tooth pockets in relation to these tooth libraries. The libraries we have in the software are going to be related to what the manufacturer has given us. So if I use Vita teeth, I'm going to have Vita libraries that were provided to FCAD from them, and the tooth pocket will be the negative side of these teeth. The next approach is base and teeth printed, both. So now I have full customization of the teeth. Now, the libraries I'm going to have to use are the ones that are scalable or that I can manipulate. So this gives me a lot more freedom. The only thing that I need to consider is going to be, once I've done my design, how I put my support pins and how I place it in my build tray for my printer. That's it. So this is probably one of the easiest approaches if you have a printer. Now, I love this image for many reasons. One, it shows exactly what printed teeth and a printed base is. And you've probably seen this slide before if you've seen any of my presentations, because I love it so much, because it's a great misrepresentation in the sense that it shows exactly what it is, but it also shows exactly what not to do. So here, if you look, all my support pins, now they've placed them perfectly, but if they weren't careful, this would undo everything as far as the seating, and especially here as well. Now they placed it not in the tooth pocket, but if they would have put it in the tooth pocket, all my adaptation for my teeth to my tissue would be completely off, and I'd be spending a ton of time adjusting and getting really, really frustrated and saying, I thought that digital was supposed to make my life easier and not harder. So again, there's going to be some bumps, especially in the beginning, bumps and bruises when you start a new process, just like anything else, because you're learning something new. And I think the expectation nowadays, a lot of times, is that I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to be a pro right away. And I think that's unfair both to you and the system you buy, no matter what you buy. Next approach, mill-based carded teeth. So same as the printed, but now we're milling them. So the milling versus printing really comes down to what do you already have. If you're investing in that technology and not sure what to buy, then it's a question of where do you want to go. So short-term, long-term, right? What is your immediate need now? And what will it be in a couple of years, so that you're not reinvesting every single time you call your distributor. You don't want to get frustrated every time you call a distributor and he's saying, well, if you want to do this, it's an extra $500 or an extra $1,000 or an extra this. And then you're going to feel like every time you call them, you're getting an invoice. So the more you identify what you want to do short-term and long-term, the easier it will be for them to guide you into the correct purchase. Because milling, you can do, yes, you can do the base, but it won't be as good as printing, because milling a denture base and teeth and all that takes a little bit longer. You have the discs, and then you have the cutting strategies and the tooling to consider. Whereas printing, it's just the material and the slices and off you go. But if you want to go into crown and bridge, zirconia, all these different things, then you're still looking at milling right now. There is printed zirconia, but it's very much in its infancy. And I don't know that I'm at a level now where I would personally recommend it. So this is what the carded teeth and the milled denture base would look like. Very often what you will do is, for the adaptation of the tooth, you can see here there's the tissue going up in between the embrasures, in between the teeth. Sometimes there might be some space left there, so you might have to do a little customization with some GC material, or basically all of the resellers have different types of material they would recommend. There's tons out there that make it look very natural, whether you have a gummy smile or not. Then we have the one that very often is questioned on. So what if I don't have enough vertical dimension of occlusion? If I don't have enough space, right? So there's the milled base with limited vertical dimensions of occlusion and carded teeth. So this is one where the approach, which if you haven't done it before, is simple for the milling. For printing, it's a little more difficult because if you're using carded teeth, you have to be able to customize them. You need to shorten basically the tooth itself to create the space. But when you're milling them, the approach, very simple, is a two-step mill. So you're going to mill the top portion of it with the tooth pockets, place the teeth in that, basically with the bottom side of the denture not being milled yet. You put the teeth in, and then you're going to mill the bottom side of your denture, which will in turn mill also the teeth. So when you flip that denture around, you're going to see the teeth and the gum material or the tissue. So, and that's how basically you get through that. So this is what it looks like. So here we have just the top portion milled, place the teeth in, and then after that, you put that disc, or you basically, generally speaking, I would always recommend you take the whole holder out for the disc so that you're not shifting the position, because then the fit will be off and you'll be wondering why that midline shifted. And then you put it back in and off you go. And last but not least, and I really mean that, milled base. Oh, actually, sorry, no, there's another one after that. It's the one that I like least. So milled base, milled teeth, same approach as printed base, printed teeth. So here it comes down to, again, the cutting strategies and the materials you're going to use to mill. So it will take a little more time, but after that, it's the same kind of approach as printed, just different technologies. And please, if you're wondering about the differences and the pros and cons, it really comes down to talking to your reseller, and it comes down also to your goals. So what are your priorities? So that's what this would look like. And as you can see, we have all the teeth in one sitting almost like a bridge. And then you would basically sit them in that tooth pocket area. This is the one that I probably recommend the least, not for anything other than we're mixing technologies. And when you do that, you're introducing different approaches, different variables. But like anything, it can be done. It's just adapting. So once you have tried a few, I always recommend when you do something new to not give yourself this tight timeline so that you're under the gun for time on top of trying to hone in a new approach of production and creation, because that's never a good way to approach things. And you want to give yourself a fighting chance when you're starting something new and not introducing stress factors that are variable for no reason. So that's what this would look like. Now, as you can see in this, a lot of them they've split it into two posterior regions and then the anteriors. And that's probably the best way to do it, because if you do it all in one, it's going to be really hard to get one insertion path for all of it, which means that you're going to have a lot of open tissues around the tooth area, and a lot of customizations and post-processing will be required to make it look natural. So, and a lot of people, I'm sure, seen these. It's like the iVotion and this isn't an iVotion disc, but that approach, which is also more and more in the market, which is basically a tooth colored top portion of the disc and a tissue colored bottom portion of the disc. And then you mill all in one go, which is also an approach that is more and more popular. Now, as far as for all of these approaches, as far as the longevity and the how long they last, all of these questions, I think more and more we're seeing that they last way longer than we thought when it first came out, but it's only been around for, I want to say, a good 10 years, right? So it's still kind of in its infancy as far as really getting an idea of lifespan for the material. I know a lot of these are used for immediate, kind of the flipper approach, but I've seen more and more full dentures be done, and I haven't heard anything negative yet on any of the materials. That being said, there's new materials coming out every single day. So it's hard to keep up with all the new things. So I love when everyone, such as people listening right now, approach me and say, hey, have you heard of this material? And then it makes me kind of research stuff and learn, which is what I love about our field. I'm constantly learning. So we're going to go through a quick demo on DentalCAD Reika, the denture module. And I'm going to go and give you a quick run through on a full upper, full lower, because now we can do basically both sides at once. So I'm just going to switch screens here. And there we go. Let me know if you can see it. Are we good? Can we see the?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see,
Okay,
we're okay,
perfect.
Ben. Yeah, go
Perfect.
ahead, Ben.
All right, thank you. All right, so here I have two approaches. I'm going to do just a basic model analysis. The idea behind this is to give the software dimensions to give recommendations on the tooth sets. Now, the approach here, the one that I've selected as far as the manufacturing method, is milled basin teeth. So I should have scalable teeth, and basically the tissue is the same no matter what in the design portion of it. So I'm just going to jump through these real quick. We're just giving landmarks for the occlusal plane. I'm going to define it by 3 points. And as you can see, I have a wizard here kind of guiding me through. And these are the different points that I'm putting in. And I'll try and move not too quickly so I don't give anybody nausea. So as you can see here, it guides you through everything you need to do. So I'm not going to be super precise here. I can always change these and change the rotation point. Again, I'm just kind of quickly going through them. The crest of the ridge, I can also add points or remove points. So very easily, very quickly. And now I've done the basic model analysis. So now I can move to the next step, which was kind of grayed out before. So here it's saying, hey, based on these measurements, we don't have room for every single molar in the tooth libraries we have. So what do you want to do? So here I'm just going to say skip it. Now here, you can't really judge this here. And this one step that I wish would give you exactly the tooth library, but it's more here that you're trying to see what you're going to use. So especially if you have presets, which I recommend, once because you have access to all sorts of different libraries. So once I've selected here, I have all my different libraries that are coming in. I did not download all the libraries we have from our website. So if I go to exocad.com, I'm going to bring this over here, integration, denture tooth libraries. You can see we have quite a few different companies and their tooth sets. If you don't see one that you use, basically we get these from the manufacturers, so you can let us know, but I also recommend reaching out to that manufacturer and saying, hey, I use exocad. Do you have a tooth library? That just means they either haven't submitted it to us or haven't done it at all, basically. So the more pressure they have, they'll make it available for all softwares. And then here, as you can see, I have only scalable selected automatically because of the manufacturing method I selected. And then if I was using carded teeth, it would be non-scalable. The presets I was referring to is once you find, if you have a tooth set that you like to use, you can save that as your default to come up. So any one of them, I can select a combination, no matter what it is. I can even grab libraries from different manufacturers. If that's the setup I like, then I can create that preset and I don't have to hunt down in all of the libraries that are available. So we do try and make everything as easy as possible. And with this new version with the Rieka, I can even load in and save setups to reuse later. So there's many, many different options. We're always trying to move to making your life easier every single time we have a new update. So here, I'm just going to skip through this to show you right away. So this is the actual tooth setup that it was suggesting. So now everybody that's used this before, you can see that I can keep these exactly what they were, which is the one thing is these posterior teeth used to be locked, right? So I could only move my anteriors, which kind of negated the freedom that we always promote. Now that was in relation to manufacturing libraries and the way they were given to us. So a lot of the libraries, the posteriors were locked in occlusion because that is what the manufacturer recommended as far as the occlusion. That's how their tooth libraries were set up. So we were finally able to unlock all of that. So now I can make everything customizable. I can change the occlusion. I can move these in relation to one another using this chain mode. So no matter which tooth I select, the teeth around it adapt. So if you look, if I pull this one out, you see how the other one tend to follow. If I tilt this one tooth, the other ones will follow, not at the same angle, but just to kind of keep that curve in a natural way. If I want to lock something, that's when you see these red ones. That means that this is locked. And now when I rotate this one, you see that one doesn't move. So if I just do this one will still adapt to this one. So there's tons of freedom here. And I can have fun. And like I said, I'm not going to make an amazing denture because I'm nowhere near the level of probably everybody watching right now. And that's a good thing, because if I haven't done this in years and I still do amazing work better than you, then question yourself, because I'm not that great. I can always go to single tooth. So if I just want to do one tooth at a time, and then I can keep the teeth in contact, or I can say, I want to be able to do whatever I want. So if I don't want to leave them in contact, I can move and create space. So a lot of different options here. And now I'm freeforming my teeth. So on top of where I was positioning my teeth, now I can actually play with the anatomy of them. Because I have scalable teeth, I can really make these as different. And let's do some funky stuff here. So just the cusp tips or the entire tooth, if I want to just move tooth parts. This is my Picasso denture. I always love to do that. And I can lock different areas. So if I like where my occlusion is, I can say, I want to move everything but my occlusion. I can also freeform, like much of you that have already played with the software. I can add or remove, bulk these up. And the nice one is I can also adapt, cut all intersections. So much like my crown design. So this has gotten a lot better. So now we're going to the denture base. Now this, very much just like when we blocked out the models by hand with the wax, this is where I control how much undercut I want. So I can see where that undercut's going to be right here. And it's all in this area. Now, these will always be preset by your reseller or distributor. They're very often honed into their own solution. So whatever mill they're
Hey,
using.
Ben.
Yeah.
Man, it's a Tory. I think Carlo Zanon has made a couple. I wasn't going to interrupt you. He's made a couple of comments. And so
Yep.
maybe you should address them now while you're working on this thing, because one of them is, what about the lateral movement? Just read on the chat, or do you want me to read them? What do you want?
Yeah, please, because I'm
Okay, so
I'm
one of
sharing
them
my
is
screen. I
says,
don't see it right now.
one of the, I'll read what Carlos says, okay? One of
Yeah.
the unfortunate results of milling is the waste. Only a small portion of the puck is actually used. The remainder is discarded. I am an environmentally friendly world. I will hope, in an environmentally friendly world, I will hope to see a means developed to reuse the waste. So that's one comment he said. And then he said, what about the lateral movements? I guess he wants more of an explanation.
Yeah, so for the articulation, the dynamic adaptations later, I can actually, with the upper and the lower now, we don't have the virtual articulator actually showing up in the screen, but the software is doing it. So I will be able to select whether I want my upper teeth to be used as kind of what will be adjusted or not. So I'll either adjust my lower to my upper or my upper to my lower, and it will do those movements, but it won't be with the articulator. So I've heard that request a lot, and we're actually putting it in as a feature request to actually add in the virtual articulator where you can control everything. So if we're changing the vertical dimension, if we're opening everything up, so then we would have, that's where the wax rims are still important, because now you're opening it to whatever vertical dimension you need. But as far as the movements, they are happening kind of in an automated way. I don't know if that answers his question. For the, I agree with his comment about the milling. The milling is subtractive and the printing is additive, right? So subtractive means that basically we start off with a block, complete block. Think of it as sculpting, where you have a big stone and then you're carving away at it, removing the material you don't need to end up with a finished product. Now, that debris is sent, depending on the type of mill you're using, whether it's wet or dry. If it's dry, it's going to be suctioned up. And then the discs, ideally, and I can't speak for the manufacturers, but ideally it would be that you send the discs that haven't been, like, once they're done, you send those back and they would be able to use those to form new discs, right? That would be the ideal solution. But I do agree that there is a difference as far as waste between subtractive and additive. So that's about as much as I can address that. I agree with his comment. It's just two different approaches. Any other questions, Tori, while we're at it? Because I can't see them. So please interrupt, don't hesitate. I put a Tori on the spot and he was sipping his coffee and he just burned his mouth. We'll continue on. So here I'm controlling the blockout. Now these are often preset, so I'm just going to be hitting next. But if ever I wanted more undercut, less undercut, I can control how much of the undercut is engaged here. So here by default, it's set to 0.1. I personally prefer 0.2, personal preference. And you can see where that undercut is right now. So if I want, I can either change it just by changing the insertion path. So I can cheat and create kind of mechanical retention, or just change my angle. So if I go like this, I'm going to have a little bit more, and like this a little bit less. Now I can change this just by hitting that from view button. And now you can see I actually have less undercut. Now in this case, this is done on a model that's been scored already. If this was an intraoral scan, I can still create kind of that post-am area by editing or freeforming my scan. So at the risk of showing people expert mode type stuff and scaring people, and it's not complicated at all, but what I'm going to do here is, if I bring in my jaw scan again, right click on it, and then freeform scan data. Let's hide that. I can come in here And this popped up. Sorry, it was just I have many screens. So now I can add or remove. So I could carve this even more if I wanted to. So if this was an intraoral scan, I could still create kind of a post-dam area to create a little more suction. That's both useful and dangerous at the same time, because if you don't know what you're changing, you could create issues. And that's why dental technicians will still be very much required even if we go full digital, because if you don't understand what you're changing in relation to what you're going to get, then you will not understand why what you got once you manufactured it did not work. So here, because I selected milling as my solution, it's giving me the considered tool diameter, and that's going to be for my tooth pockets. And what this is probably very, very overlooked. The one setting that is overlooked the most, and probably one of the most important settings when you're milling, and that is compensating for the tool diameter, the tool that will be milling these teeth and the tooth pockets. What is that size? And the very important thing to consider is that a lot of people will jump to the conclusion that they will just think of the smallest tool they have in their mill. So the smallest tool I've seen, I think, is 0.3. On average is 0.5 or 0.6. Those tools are not used for the tooth pockets. Those are used for just tertiary anatomy and zirconia or PMMA sometimes, but they're very often not used in the cutting strategies for the dentures. So that means that you have to find out what that tool diameter is. Very often it's the 1 millimeter tool. And you don't want to bring this to 1 because it will give too much tool engagement. And I'm sorry if I'm going into too much finite detail here, but what happens is you don't want that tool to be engaged by all sorts of material while it's milling, because if it's engaged, I want you to think of a circle. And if there's material all around the circle, more than 30%, covering 30% of the surface of that circle, that tool is going to break. No matter how strong it is, no matter how much you paid for it, it's going to break. So you want to limit the engagement there. So that's why it's 1.2 here, because we want to give a little bit of leeway to that tool. So I always recommend going 0.1 or 0.2 bigger than the diameter of the tool. And that's why very often for those of you that have done crown and bridge, when you have those really sharp incisal anterior preps, you'll see that kind of bubble around it. And people say, well, I'm losing space. It's just because that's the tool compensation. That tool needs that much clearance to go and clear that area. Now, if you shorten that or shrink that, you'll probably break a tool, and then you're going to be grinding the inside of that crown just to seat it. And that's where that comes from. So that's why in the very beginning, I mentioned that understanding the manufacturing process directly affects how you design. So this is where you play with your fits. And I'm sorry if that took a long time to explain, and if I put people to sleep, I apologize for that. It's just, I think it's really important to consider when you're designing, to understand what the settings are and what affects what. And that's what all our great partners and resellers will explain when they train you. So now the system is just creating the denture base based on these settings. So now I've got the same thing for the other side. Here I don't have much undercut, if any, but luckily it's on the lower end. Gravity is helping us out. All right, so now this is just me, in essence, giving the finish line. So I'll do this rather quickly. So you basically go into the crest of the ridge right in here. And when you see red, it's just because it's going into that undercut area. Any questions while I'm doing this exciting drawing a line around? All right, hit next. So if you can't hear it right now, my computer is working hard.
Hey, Ben,
Yes, Hattori.
there's a question that's coming in. Okay, and it's Itzia from Itzia. You can put the second molar as well, right? She's asking. Can you
Yes.
put the second molar as well?
So in the very beginning, it told me, hey, you don't have a ton of space. Do you want to add those second molars or not? And I don't know if you remember in the very beginning, I said, no, skip it. Don't add them in. Now, if I wanted to, I can go in expert mode, go back and add them in, and then come right back to this step. I wouldn't have to start over. So yes, I can do that. It's just I indicated right away, when it asked me in the very beginning, I said, let's not do it. Let's not add those second molars in. So that was my doing.
Okay, so
All right. So now I've got my upper and lower. So because I linked all these teeth together, and I didn't show you the prescription or the database portion of it, but basically I said that these were all going to be one big bridge because I was milling these teeth. So you can see the connectors here. Now, if I have good enough contact in between my teeth, I can use this little setting here to say, I'm just going to use the contacts. And it will actually get rid of all those connectors. But if I wanted to make it all one piece, as I showed a little bit, see now it's telling me, hey, you don't have good contacts everywhere. So this is too small for you to make it all one piece. So it's telling me every single connector that's too small. So I can always apply different ones. So here I'm just jumping back and forth. Let's get rid of this. And what I wanted to show you is if I go into multi-view design here. Got it, buddy. There we go. So now with this approach, I can really customize the connectors. So I have each side. So this one is in between my 45 and 46. And I can really make these as big or as small as I want, really customize them. This is my equator line. So in between, basically the middle portion of the connector. So much like Crown and Bridge here, but if I right click, I can also copy these to all my posteriors, specific connectors, all others. So if you want to really adapt it, you can also streamline it. So it makes it a lot easier should you really want to customize these connectors and not use just these parametric predefined shapes. I can also change the height and the width and apply that all around. So you have a lot of freedom here to make this whatever you see fit and whatever you feel is best for the situation that we're in right now. So I'm not going to spend any more time because, as I said, I'm going to do a horrible design on purpose. And there's a couple of reasons I want to do that. I also want to show you how that will affect the final design. So now I'm really refining this area. You can see it's kind of blocky and not amazing right away. So I can just create these parts. I can hide this color. This is just showing me the thickness. If I hide that, now I can see what I'm working with. And I can just move these parts in and out. I can say, I want to use big areas and bring these in and out. So if I see that my embrasures, I can bring those in. And then if I go to freeform, this is where you can really, really carve things up and make them a lot nicer. So if I prefer to really festoon a little bit more and make it look natural, it's not a lot of heavy lifting. So I'm just going to come in here and do one of these. Right? And then I can add instead of removing. I'm going to do this here. So think of it as you using your carving tool when you were doing your wax ups. And then if I go to smooth here, this one. With not a lot of work, I'm already starting to get a more natural looking denture. So again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but you can see a big difference between here and this blocky, ugly tissue. So now we're adapting the tooth pockets. So this is where my tooth pockets for this base are going to come into play. So each one, you see this description just by hovering over it. So if you're not sure what it affects, what it does, you just hover over it and you get the full instructions of it. So I hit apply. I want to show you. And remember that these are one big bridge, right? Any questions while the software is doing its calculating and magic for every single tooth?
Nothing right now.
No? All right. That means I'm doing an amazing job, Vittori.
Actually, this one, Sintonius Van Ruyen asked a question. Sorry if I did not pronounce your name, Sintonius. He asked a question to the group. So I'm looking to invest in design software. Why FCAD above other suites? So I guess everybody's, hopefully everybody will give him an idea. Can you give an impartial comment on that?
Absolutely.
Because you work for FCAD.
Yeah, exactly. So the weight of what I say will always be considered in bias towards FCAD. But I'd like to think that my reputation and basically how I'm perceived is that I've always been very transparent, very honest, and I don't plan on changing that for anything. Personally, I feel that FCAD, if you consider just how long it's been around, FCAD started in 2010. 3Shape's been around, I think, I want to say 2004, 2005, I think, maybe even earlier than that. And Dental Wings, I haven't heard any new developments or anything like that. So I'm not talking badly about any one of them. It's more of the comparison of them. I do feel that 3Shape is very, very, it's a great product. It's very good and streamlined for production type approach. And they have a lot of good products. Dental Wings is a lot of freedom, but a lot of, you need a lot of computer techie knowledge. That's my personal opinion, of course. This isn't official anything, meaning that if you're not very, very well versed in computers, it's not an easy learning curve. So if you're trying to pass this along to people that aren't really tech savvy, it's going to be a little more of a steep learning curve than you're probably looking for. And then ExoCAD is kind of a happy medium between the two, where you have this freedom by going into expert mode, and you have the workflow by staying in the wizard. And the wizard is this, right? This step. So do that step, hit next, do that step, hit next. If I go into expert mode, I can change whatever I want. I can click on the case, jump from one step to another, and then come back to where I am. I can import, export different things. See, export current tooth setup as a preset. So if I want to save that, if I want to extract a tooth that's there's just a ton of freedoms, and that's what people fall in love with. So that's why, if you look, we almost have this weird, it's kind of like a following that developed for ExoCAD just because of that. I do feel like we listen to people that are using our software and our resellers and everybody, and we're always constantly trying to better the software and the product. And I don't see that everywhere be kind of the norm, unfortunately, right? So yes, there's a bias because of where I work, but also I love where I work because I love the product, and I loved the product before I even worked for them. So for me, it's just beautiful because I ended up working for something I truly believe and I'm passionate about. But the reason I fell in love with it was because I feel like there's a lot of flexibility as far as pricing structures. So there's different pricing models, different licensing models. So depending on what your priority is and the amount of money you want to invest, there's possibilities there. There's flexibility. And then there's flexibility in the software. And it's the one software that I will say is, and I know this word gets tossed around a lot, that open, right? What does truly open mean? For me, it means that at any moment, if we're talking a full CAD CAM system, at any moment, if I walk in that room and say step away from the screen and the keyboard and the mouse, can you send that file anywhere, and can it be opened by anybody? And if the answer is no, it has to be this software or you have to use this, then that's not really open. And the other point is, okay, is it linked with a hardware? And the answer is actually no. And not a lot of them are not linked with a hardware. So that means that whether you change, whatever you change in the front end for your image acquisitions, so you're scanning, whether it's an intraoral or a desktop scanner, and whatever you change for your manufacturing, you don't have to change your design approach because it will play nice with all of them. So that's the main difference that I see. It gives you true flexibility, and that's what people fall in love with. And they also fall in love with the fact that once you have that aha moment that I referred to in the beginning, once you have that, you kind of see all the possibilities that are out there. Because when I realized that I can import like a previous case, a scene file from a previous case, and use that as my pre-op. If I like the anatomy from another one, I can bring that in. There's a ton of freedoms here. So that's what people fall in love with. That's what I fell in love with. And I was lucky enough to end up working for them. So I know whatever I say is weighed as, of course, you're the sales manager for ExoCAD. So of course you're going to say that you enjoy them better. But from my own experience, even before that, I was touting ExoCAD. So I hope that answered the question.
And it's not only you, I think in Europe, ExoCAD, globally, ExoCAD is used more than T-shape. And I mean, everybody has different things. I mean, look how many different kinds of cars there are. You know,
absolutely.
I'm just an aside, then you can go on. I watch, you know, like, I mean, I don't watch much TV, but I like to watch the Italian soccer games, okay, on the weekend if I can get. You know what?
Why just Italian?
During the game, Benoit, there's in Europe, there's at least 20 different electric vehicle. In North America, we don't have them. You know, it's Tesla, you know, Tesla. And I'm saying to myself, holy, got Peugeot electric. You know, like, I mean, you name, they're all there. You know, like BMW already, Mercedes already. Over here, we're waiting, and they're pushing this stuff. And I say, oh my God. So, and that's the same thing. You got to see what's good for you, you know, like, and then purchase it. But globally, ExoCAD, you know, it sold many more systems, you know, than T-shape. That's a reality. So that's it.
Well, and that's that's a great point. We actually just celebrated our 50,000th license sold.
Yeah.
And just to see how I thought this was great. So the end user that purchased that 50,000th license was actually got a free trip to our Insights event in Palma de Mallorca for October 3rd and 4th. So they really do care about their users. It really is kind of a direct connection. And that's what I loved about it before I even worked for them, right? If I had a suggestion, I would send in a ticket, or I would send in a suggestion to my reseller who would then forward it to XOCAD, or I would just write it to XOCAD myself. And then maybe 1 or 2 or 3 versions later, I would see it. I would actually see the suggestion in there. So I was like, okay, wow. And I don't know many softwares that have that, where they actually listen to, okay, what do people want? What is missing? What do we need to do to make it better? So here I'm doing the same thing for the lower. Sorry, I'm jumping back to this, Ettore, just so we don't just fall into our usual tangents of talking about soccer and cars and our love for the change in the
Talk
world.
about life, okay? Go on.
So here's the same thing. I'm doing the tooth pockets for my lower. So again, I have all these different settings. Most of them you're just going to hit next. This is just if you want to refine things. So trim under the, like how much thickness do I want under the tooth? So if I don't have much vertical dimension again, or much clearance, then this is the minimum that I'm going to have below my tooth for that tooth pocket. So I'm going to hit apply. So here, if you saw, as the tooth pocket was generated, that tooth would become more natural colored, if you will, and not just white. And that's actually a great tool, because if ever you see, for whatever reason, which it really doesn't happen often, but if ever there's an issue where all of a sudden it says, hey, couldn't create, or there was a conflict, or there was anything, as long as you were paying attention, you actually know where it is, because it'll say, okay, this one was done, this one was done, this one was done. And then all of a sudden it hung up here, and then that error popped up. So I know that it's in this area. And that's the whole thought process behind why each tooth, you see them change, you see which one has been completed and which one has not. And again, the speed here will depend on your computer. Mine's needing a little TLC right now. It will have to do with more so your motherboard, and the video card for the performance issue. The RAM is, see right here, it's telling me, hey. So I couldn't get that minimum thickness or these settings that I put here for these teeth. So it actually told me. So that denture tooth, and then this connector. So I'm going to hit next, but it's just telling me that it's not to the minimum that I wanted. So now I can do a try-in before I produce this. So if ever we wanted to send this for a try-in, so kind of like when you do the wax up and you send it for a try-in, much the same, I can create just a mono block. So it'll be one piece with the teeth and the tissue, and we can print that, or we can mill that real quick, send it before, especially if we're doing carded teeth, and we know we're going to be spending money on ordering those parts from a lab portion or a lab side of it. So if you know you're going to have to invest in the materials to actually produce the final, maybe you want to send this and have them try it with the patient to make sure that everything's happy and good. And if there's any adjustments, when they send it back, you can actually just scan your denture, that they've adjusted and adjust your whole design to it, because I can actually come in here. If I go to expert mode, apologize, add remove mesh, and I can bring in that new scan and then adapt my design to that. So I'm not starting over, I'm not resetting everything. And then off we go. We have exactly the occlusion they wanted, exactly the fit they wanted, and we're good to go. So if I say continue without monoblock try-in, I'll hit next. And now I'm sending this for production. So now it's finalizing everything. As you can see, I've got a beautiful denture. So Tori, if ever you need a denture, I'll create one for you.
It's coming to that point soon, but you know.
So I see that somebody's asked for the hardware requirements. So actually, if did I have that up here? Yeah, I have that up here. So we can actually find the hardware requirements on our website. So if ever you're not sure, but you just send that to your reseller if you plan on going with FCAD. And of course, this would give me that. There we go. It'll bring you to the FCAD wiki, which is actually, I just don't know it by heart right now, so I apologize, everyone. I'll actually find it while we're talking instead of boring you watching me search. But your reseller will give you that no matter what. So it really comes down to whether you want them to have the computer ready for you, installed with FCAD, or if you want to purchase it yourself, which I understand both approaches having their pros and cons.
And Ben, there's a question again coming from Carlo Zanon. With reference to scaled milled teeth, eventually teeth break. Since they are unique and not carded, how do you repair the broken tooth without making it look different?
Well, these are more than likely going to be PMMA if you're milling them. So you can use any type of composite to bond to them. It's just basically making sure that the material will match whatever you're adding to. If not, the easiest way would be to just remill, right? So you have that file here. So you could mill just that one tooth. So if you're able to get that tooth out, put in the new one, and then just add the tissue around it to make it a little more natural. It really comes down to kind of each unique situation. What is the break? What does it look like? Am I just adding a chunk like a cusp, or am I replacing the whole tooth? Sometimes it might be easier to just print the whole thing if it's teeth, and if you've done like here where I'm doing milling base and milling teeth, I could probably remill the whole thing in not much time and have it ready to go. So it really comes down to what is the situation, right? So that's, it's kind of hard for me because we're in a theoretical scenario, and I don't have it in front of me. So it depends on the situation. But ultimately, you have the files here, so you can choose whatever you want to do. You can just isolate that one tooth, or you can mill the whole thing again, or print the whole thing again. There's quite a few options, actually. So while we were talking and I was answering here, I was able to find it. So if you look at this, the FCAD wiki here, right? And this is where the hardware requirements are. So depending on the software we're trying to get, we have all the system requirements online, basically. So if you're trying to build your own or buy your own, you know exactly what to get. And I hope that helps, but ultimately I would always recommend talking to your distributor, because if you're combining this also with pieces of manufacturing equipment, you might need the splicing software. If it's milling, you might be putting the CAM software on this. So it really comes down to what is going to be needed on that piece of equipment, and do you have the minimum requirements to suit all of it? So unless you plan on doing 2 or 3 different computers. Has that, is there any more questions on that one? Or I don't know if that answered exactly what they were looking for.
I think you answered it, and his reply was perfect.
Ah,
I know
great.
you like to hear that.
Well, I'm not used to it, that's why.
Yeah.
So I'm done my design here. And then basically that brings us to, where is that? My PowerPoint. There we go. Yeah, we're pretty much done here. I know that I believe there was a question about removables. For the removables for actual partial design, actually a few years back, FCAD acquired Sensible. So if you were used to the Sensible type of design approach, we acquired them and have built on that. So we do have an actual partial design module. So if you're really proficient at that, and then that comes into the manufacturing side as well. What are you going to do with manufacturing? So again, identifying how you're going to manufacture the parts is probably more important than learning how to design them, because that will dictate what you're going to do. So really, it's kind of flipping the dental technician. If you're a dental technician, it's always, we start in the beginning and work our way towards the end. In this case, you got to focus on the end and work your way back so that you can actually produce the ideal restoration or final product. If you don't keep in consideration how it's going to be manufactured, the chances of getting a great final product are actually pretty low, because you might not, if you, the perfect example is just crown design, right? If you have a 4-axis mill and you're trying to do a implant retained all on 4, you won't be able to do those nice adaptations and get the angles for the tie bases or whatever you're going to put in there to fit. So, because it won't be milled out properly, so you're going to be grinding quite a bit out of it. So understanding that that's not possible with what you have, maybe it's better to outsource at that point. Or if you're looking to buy, then getting a 5-axis mill will be really important if that's a priority for you. So it's basically all the resellers we deal with are great, and they try and make sure that you buy the right product and from the beginning, so that you're not constantly reinvesting and constantly trying to feel like obstacles are being put in front of you while you're trying to grow. So it really comes down to having somebody help you identify what is your short-term and long-term needs, and what are your priorities. Is it just financial? Is it ease of use? Is it, and then there's a solution out there no matter what your priority is. It's just really being upfront and transparent with what you're trying to do. So I'm pretty much at the end of my presentation at this point, and
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. It's really, really interesting. You know, I'm starting to following it more and more, Ben, because usually, you know, like I keep on saying, I'm not a technician, and it took me so, or the jurist, it took me so long, you know, because to understand the technical and the denturist, you know, like a profession, and then get camera, right, and digital, right. So it's a learning experience for everybody.
Well, the great news, Ettore, is that if learning is what you love, which I feel like in knowing you these many years, I think learning is one of your passions, and it's definitely one of mine. That's why I love this field so much. It's constantly evolving, and I'm never done learning.
It's exciting. It makes it exciting, you know, like, and it's really good, you know. You know, and we were talking previously, you know, like, I mean, about the denturist, the technicians becoming denturists. So now we have, I think we have 2. Andy Summer, who I see, I just scanned. He's a very good technician who's become a denturist. And Santonius, you asked the question, is also a technician who's become a denturist. So, you know, like, I'm not wrong. I can read and see what's going on, you know, like, and I think that will continue. That will continue. Anyways, you know, like, I would like to thank you very, very much. I'm gonna ask now, you know, like, Alex Javachevich to say a few words. He's the president and co-partner of UDS. And my mantra is also this, okay, guys, support the companies that support your education. We all agree, I think, because you're here, okay? You're investing time, effort, and money being here with us, okay? So there's an investment that you're having in here, okay? But guess what? It could not be done that way. And so you got to really appreciate the companies that are investing in your success. So, I mean, we had Central, we had Alex, then, you know, Patrick Strong is going to come in. Then plus, these guys support your knowledge, you know, like across Canada. So then support them when you're like, don't go with companies that are not willing. They want your success, you know? So there's Alex Javache. Alex, good morning.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Yeah, I got your email last night, Alex. We went out to dinner and then we started to watch the tennis. Wasn't that unbelievable?
It was amazing, unbelievable game.
You know, these balls were traveling like bullets, you know, like, I mean, and there was so much. Usually, you know, there's no so much emotion, but that, you know, it was unbelievable, you know, like, yeah.
And he's only 19 years old. Carlos only 19 years old.
Yeah, unbelievable. How
This
they
is the
keep
future,
their
yeah.
composure.
Future stuff.
Yeah. So anyways, Alex, give us a few things. What's going on in your
So,
world?
again, I would like to say,
By the way, guys, wait, let me interrupt you. By the way, guys, I had the pleasure because of COVID, you know, like of visiting the UDS new building last week. Really impressive. You know, congratulations, Alex. You know, like you know, growth and success is very healthy and it motivates everybody to wanting to do more, you know. But I really liked your venue, you know, like the building, everything, really impressive.
thank you
Go
very
ahead,
much.
Alex.
Thank you again. I would like to say thank you to you for your support, for our old dental community, because without you, we wouldn't be here. And again, learning.
I would like to think that, Alex, but what if there's somebody that could do it even better? That would bother me.
That's why we always have to strive for
Improve,
better.
yes.
Improve. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. And thank you to Ben for your great presentation. It
Thank
was
you.
great. Thank you. Like always, you have lots of little things that you tweak, you teach us on everyday basis, because you go around, you see all the different customers with all their problems, and that's where you come in with your help and support. And we know digital is here. We all know that, but I still talk with some customers and I cannot believe that they still kind of waiting. They're still kind of thinking, okay, it's not here, but it's here with us. Yeah. And without you starting, it's like riding a bicycle. You need to start. You need to start somewhere. Once you start going, it's gonna get you going, and then you're gonna say, wow, you know, it's amazing. I should have started earlier. And we do have few customers who call us and say, Alex, you told me to start. I did it. It was even pre-COVID, and it was the best thing he ever done. I want to say,
you know, Alex, it is disheartening. I agree with you because we talk to a lot of people, you know, and you know, like not many still think that it's just a phase. You know, because for the longest time, it's just a phase. It will go, you know, like from the technician, I always used to hear, I tell you, my eyes are better than the computer. My hands are better than, you know, like, I mean, they're not as exact, you know, like it's a paradigm shift. I think that it's difficult to accept. I do not know why. I don't know if it's the age. I don't know if it's the willingness to invest. You know, like, because, you know, like, yes, you got to invest time, effort, and money. You know, like, this is your future, you know, like, and that's the way it is. You cannot improve and stay the same. That's the bottom line. You know, so yes, you know, like, start riding the bicycle to success. Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No. So that's why I wanted to say that, yes, it's cost, a lot of investment involved. And that's where we come in, we walk you through step by step, the process. We'll, again, on everyday basis, we working with the system, we understand where the problems are. And yes, it looks easy in the beginning, of course, sales points, it's great, this, that, but you have to get your hands dirty. You have to understand, you have to be ready. You know, it's not sometimes so simple. So be ready. But again, the best thing, you need to start somewhere, baby steps. Don't jump in right away and think, oh my God, you know, it's gonna, you know, solve your all issues. You have to start somewhere. So that's my advice.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. You know, like, and it's always nice when you can go to people that use it every day. I think it's always easier because you live. You know, it's just like, you know, I hate to be crushed, you know, but it's just like when people say, you know, like let's say you have a death in the family and somebody says, oh, you know, I know your pain. You'll know your pain only if also your mother has died. Okay, if you then you experience the pain if my mother had died. That's empathy. But if you don't experience it, you're talking, you know, like just, you know, empty words. So yes, it's easier, you know, like to learn from people that are going through these things and they know where the stumbling blocks are. And then you look, hopefully, you know, like you guys even think the way they do, because it's a mindset. It's a mindset, and hopefully eventually everybody's gonna, they have no choice. You know, we had a discussion, Alex, this one about, I don't know if it was 16 years ago, you know, like when I came back from Germany and I said, you know, like you know, there's more and more people using this intraoral scanners, you know, and people say, well, no, I'm not gonna use the doctors, and it was talking about 5% of the doctor or the medicals, you know, like a dentist were using the intraoral scanner. And then, you know, like once you hit the sweet spot of the price, you know, like, I mean, and that's what they were doing it. I think now it's up to 28% and growing. Everybody, you know, like, I mean, yeah, you know, and that's what it is. So you have no choice. It makes it more efficient. Yes, you invest money, but you get in return, you know, like you have more time, you know, like yourself. So there are benefits, you know. So, but I think, Ben, you did a great presentation. I really enjoyed it, you know, like, and I thank you, you know, and I thank Alex for sponsoring, because like I said, these courses could not be possible. Like SDA, DTA could not be possible. By the way, guys, we're planning for 2023, I told you, and we had done a survey, and the people that replied, guess what? 59% want to go on with Zoom. And then some people want the live. So what we're going to do is next year, we're going to do 1 live and I think three via Zoom. Okay. But 1 is going to be live. So, and try to integrate it. And that also gives us a chance to continue to bring talent from Europe. You know, like I usually bring, you know, Italian talent, German talent. It's going to be difficult to bring them in, you know, like at the price that we pay for the membership. It's impossible, you know, so we can, you know, I think we're going to do the best, you know, like, I mean, we'll have a live so we can, you know, and because now they're national and there's people that come in from Vancouver, from Edmonton, blah, blah, I'm going to stream it. So in Toronto, we get together and then we'll stream the thing and it's going to be recorded and they also watch it. Because we have in Toronto, guys, you know, we're lucky. Okay. We have so much education. If you go to Saskatchewan and other provinces, they don't have the education in Alberta. They do not have what we have. So, you know, like they like to see it. Like we have 77 people right on. But then you're like, I guarantee you there's going to be at least 20 people that will ask for the recorded version, you know, and that's what it is. That's a reality. They understand, you know, like that education is important. But again, invest, you know, for the people there, invest in the company that invest in you and your success. You know, that's what it is. So thank you, Joe.
Just
Thank
want
you.
to say, please contact Unique Dental for any questions, anything you like.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter digital or any.
Yeah. So yeah, and guys, like I said, don't forget you got some really high-end education. I think I know PYP is next weekend. Okay. And so you can go to Niagara-on-the-Lake, White Oaks. And then you're like October 28th, mark your calendar, you know, Spectrum Day, Toronto, and it's free admission, you know, great party, tons of education. That we have 2 rooms for the Dentures, free parking and free education. Like I'm unbelievable, and you get your certificates. So you know, like that's why you can see why when they phone me and they say, Tori, can you do me a favor? You know, now it's not even money, it's free. You know, it's an effort that you got to do, you know, effort, you know, like you got to put the effort, time and money you got to invest. So yeah, invest a little bit. You come there, you spend the day, you got to get most of your points, you know, and then you can talk to the people, you can talk to machines.
And enjoy.
Yes,
Enjoy.
in the collegiality. If you cannot take the initiative to do that, you know, like it takes guts to phone and say, hey, Tori, blah, blah, blah. Can you give me a free certificate? No, I don't do it. I just don't do it.
Hey, Tori, I'm going to call you right after this.
Yeah, I know. You're one of them. Do you want the French one?
Yeah, please, please.
Anyway, thank you guys. So we'll go on
Thank you.
now. Yeah, Alex, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon, Alex.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the best.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
you.
Hey, Alex, keep on
Yeah.
getting ready for Spectrum Day because you're presenting, big guy.
Okay, I'll do it. No problem. We'll do
Yeah.
our best.
It'll be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao. Ciao.
Take
Thanks,
care.
man.
Ciao.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye.
Have a
Okay,
great
guys,
weekend.
so now we go to Patrick Strong. You know, I met Patrick quite a while ago. Look at him showing off. You know, like this is it on his boat, having a party, probably drinking. I don't know what's gonna come out of his mouth. Water. The only thing he told me, Carlo, are you still there? He says, make sure Carlo Zanon is there. I do not know why. I don't ask why. And I said, okay, we're gonna do it. But you know, like Patrick Strong is world renowned. We met a long time ago, you know, in the development of oral appliances. You know, the world knows who Patrick Strong is. So Patrick, did you also graduate from George Brown?
Yes, I graduated in 1980 after Carlo cheated off me. And
Oh,
that we
no.
graduate together. So
So you dragged them along, huh?
yeah. Taught him everything he knows.
You know what? Now I feel bad. I didn't mention your name to George Brown when they were looking for about, you know, we need a presence in the world. But I did mention Carlo, and so and now I feel now he cheated. He copied from you. I feel bad. How do you think I feel?
I'll pay for that one later.
Anyways, I am glad that you agreed to be here. You know, like I mean, Patrick has consulted and treated over 3,500 sleep disorder patients in his practices. So, you know, like, I mean, you can learn from him, you know, like on the technical side of things, okay, on the clinical side, but also on the business side, okay, if you act on it. He has a very, very successful consultation method, and I'm gonna be working with him, you know, like, and he's so sure of himself. He's so self-confident. You know, I was reminding Carlo when we did that course with Brian Allman, who was an amazing speaker, and we did a course on sleep apnea, okay? And Brian Allman, one of the best speakers, and I've seen thousands, okay? He was amazing. And then, you know, like at the end, we used to take a break, and he used to say, now, what do you think? Shouldn't I be the star? But everybody thinks Strong, Patrick is a star. So that's a thing that he brings to the table. I am so glad you agreed to do this thing. You know, Dem Plus wanted to be associated with this presentation. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm gonna turn it over to you, Patrick. Please do your thing, man.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the intro. Let me just see if I can make this work here. There we go. And yes, Tori, if I start to things start to shake in that, I am sitting on my boat, enjoying the beautiful weather down here. And thank you very much for the invite to be here. So
Hey,
this was
Patrick, let me interrupt you for a second. Have you shared your screen already? Because we only see you right now. We don't see your desktop.
I did click share the screen. Let
Okay.
me tab back here.
Did you open the presentation first? It has to be open on your desktop, and then you press the share screen.
Okay, hang on. Oh, there we go. Wait a minute. Now let's try this. Is that working yet? Tori?
No, Patrick. Is it
Okay.
open on your is it open on your desktop?
It is right now.
Okay. Now you can share.
Okay. So let me go back to my Zoom here. doesn't want to share, which is okay. And that because I only have a couple of slides. The rest is I'm talking authority, so I don't know why right now this isn't doing what I want it to do. But can you hear me okay?
Yes, and we can see you.
Oh, you can see me. That's good. All right.
We
that
can
works.
see you, which is a thing.
Okay. So very basically, this whole presentation, I've called it Beyond the Basics, Snoring, Sleep Apnea. And Ettore, you are right. I am a graduate of George Brown College in 1980. And that I began my life as a bench technician for my uncle back in 76. So I've been in dental a long time, but I got introduced to dental sleep appliances about 30 years ago. And I'm actually very proud to be of the fact that I was the only denturist that was invited to attend the original Sleep Disorders Dental Society meeting, the SDDS, which later became dental sleep medicine in 92. So in 91, I went to that. So I got into this field quite early in that. And as a slight correction, I have treated a little over 4,700 patients in my career right now, as of today, as of this date. Most important one is myself. I am a patient in my own practice. I was a severe apneic patient before I lost a ton of weight due to throat cancer. My throat cancer is gone. My weight's on a little bit again, so I still wear an appliance and I sleep very well. One of the things that I hear so much out there when I'm practicing is that participants or anybody in the lectures that I will lecture to, I'm just trying to bring you up here for a second. Give me 2 seconds. It says I'm sharing my screen. You still can't see me, Ettore? Are you there? All right, now I've lost everything.
No, we could see it like there's Google, and then I could
Okay,
see
you've got
an
that
image.
now?
No, only
Okay,
Google.
so hang on a second. Hang on, I think we got her fixed out here for a second now.
It just stands for, okay, now I see, yes, yes.
Now we're
Always say,
good.
who's Patrick Strong? Okay,
There we go.
yes.
All right. Perfect. Finally going. All right. So it just basically says that I'm also, this is just my background, so everybody has a general idea of what I've done in this field. And I do have quite an extensive knowledge in treating patients. I am also the founder and president and CEO of Strong Dental Lab. So I'm responsible for the developing, patenting, and manufacturing over 30,000 sleep appliances, which we distributed throughout North America, Europe, and Brazil before I sold Strong Dental to SomnoMed in 2015. And that leads me to my little disclaimer here. I am not associated with SomnoMed. I'm not associated with any particular manufacturer out there. All right, I have locations in Windsor, Leamington, Chatham, and Sarnia. Plus, I'm also in the midst of negotiating a couple other spots. See if we can get this thing to move over for me here. There we go. So this is where I was getting at. Why am I here speaking to you today? Even when I talked to Carlo Zanon, who is a very good friend of mine, in that we graduated together. I'm proud to call him one of my best friends in that. And I hear from Carlo that he has trouble selling appliances to patients, that unless they have insurance, patients aren't going to pay for this and that. Well, on the average right now, I put through between 45 and 55 appliances per month on patients, so new patients. And at last talk with Nancy, my office manager, roughly about 70% of that is out of pocket. The other 30% is through insurance. It all comes down to how do you talk to the patient? I've come up with a process that works well for me. I go out and I teach this. It's a very quick little thing on my consultation. You can take what you want from it, try and take little pieces out of it, but I'm going to explain it as I go along. And I want you to understand that you are dealing with the general public. You are not dealing with a medical practitioner, a dental practitioner, an engineer, or whatever. You're dealing with somebody who has an issue about their sleep, and you want to talk to them in a level that they can understand. So when I do this little presentation in a few minutes, you're going to hear me say things that you're going to go, wow, that's pretty simplistic. That's pretty, not much to it. Or why are you saying it that way? keep in mind, it's the audience that you're going to, all right? So Tori, you still there?
Yes, I stay here. I watch the whole thing.
Good. So I'm going to switch over right now. I want to make sure that this does come through for a second in here. I'm going to bounce through one screen here. All right. Now, these are a couple of my sample radio advertisings. You need to be able to advertise yourself as a practice. And I do multiple different radio spots around. And there's a trick to doing this, ladies and gentlemen. You can purchase a 30-second radio spot, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to do any good. You don't have enough time to get your information on that you need to put on there. Every one of mine are 1 minute long. It's my voice. There may be a little bit of a commentator doing some stuff, but it's gotten to the point where it makes you very recognizable. I walk into Costco, I walk into Canadian Tire, I pull out something that has my name on it. They look at me and they go, "Hey, are you the guy on the radio?" Go, "Well, yeah, I am." "Well, how do I get in to see you?" So you're constantly walking around advertising yourself. But before I get into this little discussion, I want you to listen to these two. This is the latest one called Dust Bunnies.
Hi, I'm Patrick Strong from the Strong Clinic. I've been treating snoring and sleep apnea patients using dental appliances for over 30 years. And I have a couple of questions for you. Have you been diagnosed with sleep apnea and been told that your only option is to use a CPAP machine? Have you been affected by the recent recall of certain CPAP machines, only to be put on a waiting list due to a shortage of machines? Better still, is your CPAP making friends with the dust bunnies under your bed or hiding in your closet? Are you hesitant to get help because you are worried that you will automatically be put on a CPAP machine if you go for a sleep study? You need to know that you have options when treating your snoring and sleep apnea, and it is okay to ask questions. Dental appliances can be as effective, if not better, than CPAP and can be used to treat all levels of sleep apnea.
Be an advocate for your own health. Visit the Strong Clinic with locations in Windsor, Leamington, and Chatham. Online at thestrongclinic.ca.
Just checking, Tori, did that come through okay?
Perfect.
Good.
Perfect.
So here's another example of one, and I'll explain these in a minute afterwards.
Hi, I'm Patrick Strong from the Strong Clinic. At the Strong Clinic, I specialize in treating patients with dental appliances that are small and easy to wear. Dental appliances hold your lower jaw in a comfortable forward position, which stops your airway from collapsing while you sleep. There are no tubes, no masks, and unlike CPAP machines, while wearing a dental appliance, you can talk, yawn, drink water, and better still, snuggle up to someone special without getting tangled up in the hose. Dental appliances easily fit into your pocket or carry-on luggage, making traveling much more manageable. No longer will you have to drag your CPAP machine through security at the airport. At the Strong Clinic, we encourage you to be an advocate for your health and look at all your options regarding your sleep and health.
Be an advocate for your own health. Visit the Strong Clinic with offices in Windsor, Leamington, Chatham, and our newest office in Sarnia. Online at thestrongclinic.ca.
Okay, so those are just a couple of the examples of ads that we were on the radio. And the key thing to take out of both of those ads, you will hear me mention something about being an advocate for your own health. So what that simply means, and you'll hear me talk about it in a minute, I'll tell a patient, this is their problem, not my problem. What's right for me might not be right for them. They need to be an advocate, look at all avenues, figure out exactly what is going on and make a logical decision from there. This whole little lecture thing, this little discussion I'm going to talk to you about is how I actually empower my patients to make a decision on their own, understand that they can make the decision. And I'm going to go through step by step. If you've got a pencil and paper handy, you're going to write down a few little key words that I use. Use them, don't use them, try to make it your own thing when you do it. But trust me, I'm not a genius at this, but I've built a really good career doing it. I see a tremendous amount of patients in that. And I've taught other practitioners to do it this way, and it seems to work well for them. Hopefully, the majority of you have already had.
Hi,
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I know. I heard you before, Patrick. Just a second. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I need to get to a different one here. Okay. Let's go back up one. All right. Can everybody see that screen? Tori?
Yes.
Okay. It's a lot of gibberish here. If you've taken courses out there, and you should have taken courses on what is snoring, what is apnea, AHI, hypopnea, is that these are some of the things that you're going to be taught. Sleep apnea causes hypoxia, a low oxygen level in the body. When it happens, your body becomes stressed, reacts to a fight or flight response, which causes your heart to beat faster and your arteries to narrow. Goes down to talk about 2010 study done, found that having sleep apnea can raise your risk of a stroke by 2 or 3 times. 2007 study here, 30% over a period of 4 to 5 years for a chance of heart attack or death. All right. By the way, I was diagnosed with severe apnea. I had a heart attack back in 2013. Mild, just enough of a wake-up call, but it was there. So started treating myself right after that. That's when I became a patient of my own. All right. There's all these little statistics here, and I'm going to tell you right now, you can ramble this off like I'm doing right now, and your patients will fall asleep on you. So when you start talking to them, and I'm going to use this as a bad term here, dummy it down. All right. I want you to speak to them as if they are like a friend. Let me close this off. And I'm going to, I don't need to save that right now. And Tori, what I'm trying to do is get back onto my screen so you can see me.
Okay, then you should just stop sharing. Stop sharing.
Sharing, thank you. All right. Okay, I don't want to share, so let's go. Up there we are. Stop sharing.
There you go. Okay.
All right. Okay. So am I back on now?
Yeah, everybody sees you.
Thank you. Let me just move this out of the way. So first off, we run those ads on the radio. Patients listen to them. A couple of the other key things is I talk about how I digital scan. I don't take impressions anymore. So understand, patients really don't like impressions. So I get a lot coming in telling me that they came in because of the scanning. But now, when a patient walks into my office, I do about a 30-minute consultation. Sometimes it might last a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit less. But on average, we're going to book 30 to 45 minutes for each individual patient. And a lot of you are going to sit there and think, well, that takes up a lot of my time. And if you do like me, and I'll do 7 consults a day, pretty well a lot of my day is solid consultation. But I have a team of 1 girl. She is my office wife. Her name is Nancy. If you call my office, you will talk to Nancy. Nancy has worked with me. She does not work for me. She works with me for the last 20 years. And she has done everything from being a receptionist right up to executive administrator for the CEO, which is me and that. And she is another one of my best friends in there. When I'm in doing a consultation, Nancy is either answering the phone or she's delivering an appliance. She's doing a follow-up on an appliance. If she delivers it, once it's seated, she's talked to them about cleaning it, looking after it. She calls me in to look at it and sign off on it. So I always check the insertion, the bite, everything on it first. But now, when a patient comes in, the very first question I'm going to ask a patient is, why are you here to see me? And ladies and gentlemen, that is a very important question because it's going to set the whole tone of your consultation on that. If I had a patient walk in and said, I'm going to use Carlo as my example here. He says, because Franca told me to come here, or because Franca keeps hitting me at night. I don't have a problem. It doesn't bother me. Well, now I've got a patient that I'm going to need to really spend a little bit more time on and explain the background of what's going on and where more health risks are, understand that he needs to take control of his own life. But more often you're going to have a patient come in and go, I'm tired of being tired. Or better still, I can't wear CPAP. I've tried CPAP. And by the way, too, if you don't know by now, Google CPAP recall. There is a major recall going on right now. The FDA issued a class 1 recall, which is the highest recall possible on the Philips Respironics sleep machines, the Dream stations. They were actually breaking down, gassing off, and those particles were causing cancer. So they've been recalled, taken off the market, and due to the chip shortage, we don't have a lot of replacements for CPAP machines. So this is a huge market right now where there's a lot of patients searching out there that want to get off their CPAP machines. They don't want to wear a CPAP machine and they're looking for alternatives. So after that question, I always ask them, what do you know about me? How did you find out about me? And what do you know about my background in that? Because what I'm searching for is, I spend a lot of money on it, on advertising on the radio. I want to know how they found out about me. And invariably, it's because I hear your radio ad over and over and over again, and I just decided to call you. Or I'll hear from friends in that. And give them a little bit of a background. My background is, I've been treating sleep now for about 30 years in that. And I'm a developer of one of the original appliances, the SUAD device. So I give them a little bit of that. And then I tell them that if you come up to 2022, you'll find I've treated a little over 4,700 patients. And I tell them that I'm a patient of my own practice. The point behind that is build some confidence in them. Let them know that you know what you're doing in that. But now here is the big part. This is one of the bigger key things to talk about. I'll look at them and say, and that is that you've probably heard me talk on the radio. If you've heard the ads on there, I mentioned a thing called be an advocate for your own health. So I look at the patient, and yes, I do tell them that what it simply means to me is, this is your issue, it's not my issue. What's right for me might not be right for you. You need to look at everything going on. You have to understand what is happening to your airway at night. Is there a health risk to the changes going on that pertains to you? And then make a logical decision on what is the right way to treat this, if anything at all. And I'll go to them and go, chances are, and if they've already had a sleep study in that, I'll go, you've gone to a, every time you touch camera shakes. No, that's my boat shaking, sorry. And that, it's a little wavy out here right now, guys. So, and it's partly too on the table I'm at. So I apologize if my thing is shaking here. But I'm gonna talk to the patient and go, chances are you went for a sleep test. They looked at the results, looked at you and said, Mr. Zanon, you have apnea, you need a CPAP machine. And you weren't given any other choices. And they'll kind of look at you and go, yeah. And I'll go, okay, I'll explain that to you afterwards, why that's happened in that. But to understand about your airway, I look at a patient, and this is a key critical part, this little bit here. I tell them that I always explain to everybody exactly what is going on with them when they are sleeping. What is happening to your airway in there? Because chances are the sleep clinician has never, ever explained it to them. They just say, you have apnea, you stop breathing 40 times an hour, you need a CPAP machine. Plain and simple. Oh, by the way, it might lead to heart disease. So I want a patient to take charge of their life. I want them to understand what is going on. I want to sell them without selling them. It's plain and simple. All right. Get them to understand what's going on and let them make their decision. So I'm going to look at these patients. And once again, I'm going to use my imaginary patient, Mr. Zan, in there and that. And I'm going to go, Carlo, I want you to understand that, you know, you and I are not alone. Everybody's airway changes when we go into a rest position. It's a natural occurrence that happens. For the vast majority out there, it's so minor a change, we don't hear anything. They sleep through the night, they wake up refreshed, they got all sorts of energy. Yes, you know what, they might go out with friends and have a little too much to drink and snore that night, but we don't worry about that, right? So they're patients we don't really concern with. Then I'm going to explain to them that then we have the other patients that just snore. Now, at this stage, if I don't have a sleep study, I'm going to look at them and go, you know, we don't know if that's just you. We don't know if there's anything else going on, but for right now, let's just say you fall in the category that this is just a snoring issue with you, all right? I tell them that this can be upwards of a 10% change in the airway here. It's not coming from here, it's coming from back here. And it's just enough of a change to let the tissue vibrate, make a horrible sound. But I tell them, trust me, there's no health risk involved in this. And understand that this is the simplest thing for me to treat. It's subjective. If you snored last night, Carlo, and I give you a dental appliance today and you don't snore tonight, I'm done. We don't have anything else to worry about. You're happy, Frank is happy, I'm happy because everybody else is happy. So at that stage right there, I'm letting them know because trust me, there's still a lot of concern. They've heard things about apnea. They're embarrassed about their snoring. Put them at ease. Let them know this is normal. Don't worry about it. And once again, just tell them, trust me, it is the easiest thing for us to fix in that. But now, for patients like myself, as I go past that 10% closure, and this is where I'm going to make it so patients can understand it. So don't send me little chats in a minute going, well, that sounds too simple, or you're missing a point here or not. We're doing this to talk to the patient. We want the patient to understand, and we want them once again to take control of this in here. So I tell them, for patients that go past that 10%, like myself, as my airway starts to change, it doesn't have to stop, but as it starts to change out of normal, if that change starts to last more than 10 seconds, and now the brain sees that change going on, the only way a brain will look at it is that person is dying. It's got no other way to look at it. Now, of course, the brain doesn't want you to die. The brain wants you to live, Carlo. So now it's going to go into a protective mode right away. Fight or flight response, which literally is a panic attack. And if you break a panic attack down to the simplest of forms, panicking is adrenaline. Adrenaline is blood pressure and pulse going up. So we can easily make an assumption here that every time your airway changes and the brain sees this change going on, there's a pretty good chance you could be spiking up your blood pressure. In my case, when I was tested before I lost the weight to the cancer, my airway changed 54 times an hour. Sorry, because of all the radiation, I had 35 rounds of radiation. I dry out when I'm talking. So every now and then I have to say something.
Patrick, we have a question coming in from Joey Della Marina.
Hey, Joey.
Is
up?
treating sleep apnea permitted by the College of Dentures? Treating snoring is permissible, however.
Okay, what was that again?
Is treating sleep apnea permitted by the College of Dentures?
Yes, it
Treating
is.
snoring is permissible.
Yes. Treating snoring is in the public domain, so anybody can treat snoring in that. Treating sleep apnea, if you do it correctly, it is a bit of a gray area there, but if you do it correctly and follow along with working with sleep clinicians, and those are things that you should be taught in a regular course, all right? What is right, what is wrong, I'm doing that. And those are other courses that I do. But I've also already been investigated by the college a while back, and they found that I was doing everything correctly. So they have no issues with what I do and that. And I work with a tremendous amount of sleep clinicians. I don't work on my own and that. So hopefully that does answer the question. I can go into it in greater detail later if anybody would like. Okay. Are we good now,
We're
Tori?
back on.
Okay, thanks. All right. So anyway, so as I said, my airway would change 54 times an hour before I lost the weight. I look at the patient and go, there's only 60 minutes in an hour. So you can pretty well make a good assumption here that that first time my airway changed, my blood pressure would go up. I would take a recovery breath, couldn't recover fast enough, all night long sitting there with high blood pressure till I woke up. Then it would start to normalize itself during the day. And they're still kind of looking at you. They're paying attention to what's going on. So I tell them that we all know, or you should know, that high blood pressure is a known risk factor for heart disease. We've known that. It's been drilled into us. But here's where I start to get them involved now. I look at them and go, but one of the biggest changes that we've just begun to figure out now too is the correlation between these airway changes happening in deep sleep and heart attacks happening while we sleep. And that a lot of the literature that's come out now, a lot of the stuff that a lot of my students have sent me to review, things that I see from other colleagues in that actually gives me a lot of concern, I tell them, because we have now shown without a doubt that the vast majority of heart attacks are in fact happening during sleep, the latter hours of sleep when we're in a deeper sleep, and we're more likely to see these airway changes going on, or we'll see that heart attack within an hour to an hour or two of waking up from a resting period, but tracing its beginning stages back into deep sleep. I now tell them that, you know, we think we may have finally come up with an answer as to why we see somebody go to bed at night and not wake back up again. We've always stood around and said, well, you know, if it was your time to go and the good Lord wanted you, maybe it was a good way to go. And I go, maybe they didn't have to. Maybe there was something we could have done to help them. And where I explained to them that where the threshold is for the amount of times per hour that your airway needs to change or exceed to put you into a higher risk category. And I tell them this number is going to tighten up. We get more data in, we're going to see this tighten up more, because originally it started about 20. Now it's down to 15. I'm going to see it go down a little more, I think, still in my career in that. But right now I tell them it's 15 times an hour. So it means if anywhere in your sleep, Carlo, all night long, on your back, on your side, in REM, the deepest part, if your airway changes more than 15 times an hour and you don't do anything to normalize this and try to bring it down, I can honestly, absolutely assure you that you are putting yourself into a higher risk category for the possibility of maybe a heart attack or stroke down the road. Not telling them they're going to have one. I'm letting them know what could possibly happen. And I look at them and go, you know what? I'm not psychic. I don't have a crystal ball. Would it be you? Would it be Nancy up front? Would it have been me? I don't know. But I admit to the patient, I look right at him and go, but actually I did have a heart attack 13 years ago, and mine was first thing in the morning. And if you don't know me, guys, and that I was down south lecturing, I got up that morning, I wasn't feeling myself. I was just kind of out of sorts and that, thought maybe it's something I ate, but I'm one of the keynote speakers. I got to do this lecture. So, and there's over 200 practitioners. So I get up, I get dressed, I'm walking through the conference hall, and all of a sudden you could have swore I dropped the anchor off this boat here, because I came to a dead stop. I had to sit down, catch my breath. I'm sweating. I felt dizzy. I felt a little nauseous, and that just felt like I just couldn't do anything. Fought through it. Now keep in mind, I teach this crap, okay? I'm not even paying attention to it. I get up, walk a little further, hits me again, get through that. I went and did my lecture. I went back to my room, rested. I'm in Disney World. Nothing bad's going to happen. I get home, find out that, yeah, I was having a heart attack. Minor, it was a wake-up call. But the point is, it was first thing in the morning, and it does happen. Luckily for me, I smartened up a bit and started treating myself. You start telling patients something about that. Oh, and here's the cool thing too. You get an EMS, you get a police officer, OPP, local, you get a fireman in, and you mention that to them. Or if you got any buddies, you know anybody in those fields, ask them how many times they've attended a house or a place of residence first thing in the morning, and there's nothing they can do. My best friend was 49 years old, lay down for a nap, never woke back up again. Another friend of mine got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, told his wife, Donna, he wasn't feeling good, went out to the garage, told her he's just going to get some fresh air and that. I ain't knowing John, he went to have a cigarette and that. By the time Donna got dressed and got out there, John was gone. So it is happening more often than we want it to happen. But I tell patients that luckily we have another mechanism going on here too in our sleep. At that stage of your sleep, you've got diminished air coming in, if none at all, when the brain sees this happening, sees the airway change going on. And it realizes that it cannot leave you here. It has got to get you out of this part of sleep, take you up into a lighter level of sleep so that you can start normalizing your breathing again, but it's not a productive area. It's not a area where you're going to start feeling better, but you are going to be able to start breathing better. And if you're more than 90% collapsed in your airway, I tell my patients, and that back here, your sleep partner or anybody around you will hear you go quiet and all of a sudden go like that and start back up again. And it's amazing at that point how many of them look at me and go, I hear that all the time. Or I'll even ask them, you know, has your sleep partner ever said that to you? No. Have you ever woke yourself up? No. And that, okay. So then in all likelihood, what's happening to you is you're not up to that 90% now. So you're below that 90%. So you're not technically closed off. So there's nothing to pop open here. Same health risk. I tell them I'm not changing any of this. It's just we will never hear you. And we call those hypopneas or silent apneas. And this is important too. I look at the patient and say, the only reason I'm saying that, there's two reasons. One is I can't tell you how many patients in my career have come in and said, hey, Patrick, I don't have that apnea thing. I don't stop breathing. I don't gasp for air. But we do a sleep study and find out that, yeah, you're a moderate apneic patient. You're in a higher risk. You just didn't know because they're all silent. And the other one is because I always like to explain a sleep study to my patients. Patients have no idea what was going on in their study and that, and I always get a copy of it. So when I'm doing a consultation, probably 90% of the time, if they've had a sleep study, I've already got it in front of me. And that's something in another lecture that Nancy teaches how to do. But we get a copy of everybody's study. I'll look at it and I show it to the patient because it's their study. And I'm going to point out, and this is so you guys know too, where it says AHI. So AHI is going to be the apnea hypopnea index, meaning how many times per hour does your airway change? So I look at them and go, just understand that the A is for apnea, which is above 90, and we're going to hear you gasp for air. The H, below 90, we'll never hear you gasp for air, but same health risk. And the last part is the index, all put together. Now they've got a better understanding of what's going on with them there. right? So at that point, I now have them understanding there is a health risk. So quick little recap, snoring, don't worry about it, easiest to fix. Now we know where there's a health risk, and I look at them and go, and it is real. We're seeing more and more of it happening. Now I want to know how this is affecting you. So I look at my patient and say, to kind of wrap this up, to kind of get an idea where we're going with this, I've developed about 6 quick questions I ask my patients. They're designed to give me an idea where they're fitting in this whole realm of sleep disordered breathing. I tell them their answers may answer questions in their head as to why do I feel like this at my age? But more importantly, they're designed to give me an idea what I can expect out of you if I treat you. Because I tell my patients, it's not up to me. And it's exactly word for word. Trust me, use something like this because you're now going to get that patient looking after their own stuff. I tell them, it's not my job to tell you what to do. I just don't do that in my practice. My job is to help you, educate you, and guide you through and do what I can for you in that. So now I've taken myself out of that sleep center who's just put the patient on CPAP all the time because I've told them that it's not up to me. It's up to you what we do here. So I go, and if I'm talking to Carlo, I'm going to like, Carlo, how old are you? So 65, all right? I think 64, we're about the same age in that. I'll go, what do you do for a living? That's my second question, because I want to know where they are on swing shifts, because swing shifts are going to change how I look at their answers. And I always tell them that. As soon as they tell me that, like Carlo goes, hey, I'm a denturist and that, I'll go, so it's not a swing shift job, no long hours, but, and I'll go, okay. So now I can kind of judge in my head, I'm going to look at his answers. Now, here's the important ones. So I'll go, Carlo, when it's time for you to wake up in the morning, the alarm clock goes off. You got to get up, get your butt out of bed, go to work. Are you waking up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to face the day? Or are you sitting back hitting the snooze button trying to stay in bed? And they all just start to kind of laugh. They look at me and go, yeah, the latter one. I'm hitting the snooze button. Okay. I said, pretty much all the time? Yep. Okay. So when you get out of bed, next question is, when you get out of bed, and you start walking around, that first half hour, 45 minutes of you walking around, how does your body feel? Does your body feel normal as it's going to feel for the whole day in that? Or are you starting to think 64 is caught up to you and you got to stretch this thing out? And typical response of an apneic patient, and I am going to explain these questions in a minute here on this, why I asked them. So typical thing is from them out here, oh yeah, takes me a while to get moving around. I got to have my shower in that. I'll go, okay. So that same amount of time, that half hour, 45 minutes, how does your head feel? Normal or a bit of a fog and achiness, just a slight bit in the back of the head? Oh yeah, yeah, not until I have my coffee does that go away, or sometimes last longer. Okay. Next question is, do you drink any alcohol in that? So yeah, if you're me, I'm a captain of my boat, I drink a lot. All right. So I'm going to go, yeah. So my question to them is going to be, have you noticed for one reason or another, you're just not recovering as fast as you used to in that? You get up the next morning and it's much harder to get back to a normal feeling in that. And they'll go, yeah, that's why I stopped drinking as much as I did, or I really cut back. Because I'll guarantee you, patients have noticed this. Apneic patients have really noticed they don't recover that fast the next day. Things have really changed. Then I'll go, okay, Carlo, do you stop for lunch? Do you take a lunch break? Yeah, on occasion, he says. So I'll go, okay. So on the days that you do stop for lunch, do you find you're kind of dragging your butt in the afternoon, kind of hit that wall, need that coffee, maybe a nap to get through? And he'll go, yeah. I'll say, but do you ever notice that when you don't stop for lunch, you work through, you get through the day okay, but you're tired at the end of the day? Yeah. Explain that one later too. So now, there's only a couple more questions here. These next 2 questions are going to tell you a lot about your patient. It's going to help you explain a lot to your patient. I'm going to look at Carlo and I go, Carlo, do you dream? And I'm going to get 1 of 2 answers here. One is going to be, I don't remember. I don't think I dream. I don't dream anymore. Or, my God, I'm having the most vicious dreams out there. They're nightmarish all the time. Okay. Now, if there's no apneic events going on, stuff like that, they're going to dream normally for that. Then I'm going to ask them, how is your short-term memory? And they all look at me and go, what? Not as good as it used to be. So I'll explain that one. Then the last two questions. How many times, Carlo, do you get up at night to go to the bathroom on a normal routine? And would Franca say you toss and turn a lot in bed, flop around all over the place? And I'll get those answers there. And now I'm going to look at them and go, okay, so all those answers, your answers told me a lot about you. And basically, here's what I got figured out. And here's what they're all about. The first question was just a general one. I wanted to know how Carlo was perceiving his sleep. Because really, if he still told me that, you know what, I got no issues with it. I get up fine in that. It's just Franca's complaining all the time I'm snoring and that. And he throws up a bunch of red flags afterwards. I'm going to have a lot more of a conversation with this guy. All right. But typically, most patients know, and I'll look at him and go, you know, your sleep's not good, Carlo, and that, and you threw up a bunch of red flags. So let's take a look and see what we can do to try to make this better in that. So the next couple of questions, the next three questions, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm specifically looking for, was Carlo holding his breath at night? And if he was, this is what I explained to him. I'll go, are you holding your breath at night? And if you are, how is that affecting you? And really, what changes could I expect out of you if I opened up your airway? I'll go to them, our filtration system. We suck in air, we put out carbon dioxide. But I'm going to tell you right now, Carlo, you're not bringing enough air in to flush out all that carbon dioxide because of the airway changes at night. So it's building up in your body and that's that hypoxemia that we saw, all the fancy terms in that. So dummy it down and say, hey, you're just not bringing enough air in to flush it out in here. Yes, you're going to take a recovery breath. She may or may not hear you go like that, but that's not enough. You need a good half hour, 45 minutes of steady breathing in order to normalize everything here. So Carlo, if I open up your airway, it doesn't matter how I do it right now, not selling them. Doesn't matter how I do it right now, but if I get your airway open up to anywhere near what it's supposed to be in that, what I really expect to see out of you, and I see time after time with my patients, but also experience myself as a patient here, really at your age, you should actually be waking up feeling like you slept, ready to get up and face the day, not get up and run a marathon. We're too old for that crap, but ready to get up and start your day at the alarm clock, if not before. The achiness to the body, the fogginess to the head should start to dissipate off a bit because you are breathing properly. But I look at him and go, but understand, we have busy lives. You can do something the day before and you are going to deserve to feel like crap the next day, but not 7 days a week, right? The alcohol question. I can honestly, and I love to tease my patients. I joke through all my consultations and stuff like that. And sitting up on my cabinet above where I sit in my consult room is my captain's hat. I also wear an anchor right here and that. And I'll go, if you haven't seen the hat yet or seen this, I'm a captain. I said, we dock our boats. Yeah, for me, it's bourbon and that. And I go, not that I drink to excess. I said, I'm getting too old for that crap. But I can actually sit and enjoy a good glass of bourbon with my friends and not worry about how I'm going to feel the next day because I am breathing properly. It's the carbon dioxide mixing with the alcohol that causes that major hangover effect the next day. I tell them that, look, if I'm going to be stupid, yeah, I'll pay for it the next day. But it's just kind of a nice thing to be able to enjoy a normal life again with my friends and have a drink when I want to have a little drink. And a lot of patients just look at me and go, I would really like to get back to that and that, because it is important in our lifestyles. Then I tell them about that afternoon lull. I tell them that a lot of patients are going to blame that on the fact they had a big lunch. Well, I tell them it's got nothing to do with what you ate. It's got to do with the fact that your brain is searching for sleep and that. If your brain thinks that it did not get enough sleep the night before, and I tell them it's no longer this 7 to 8 hours, your brain knows what your brain needs and it works with your body. And if it hasn't got what it needs for you to survive a normal lifestyle here, it's going to try to find more sleep. And lunch is the most common spot because what do? You guys, you're not working on your bench. You're not talking to a patient. You're sitting there having lunch. You may be talking to your staff. Carlo may be calling Franca. Your brain's relaxed. It's starting to catch up to you. And that's where it's going to try to put you back into that sleep mode and you fight through it and have that coffee and that. So I tell them if I open up your airway, good chances are you're just going to start getting through the day. Eat what you want, and that, have a normal lunch and that, and just see how you get through the day. Now, once again, busy lives, I tell them, we could have the odd day here and there, but not all the time. So those are basic questions. Now the next two questions, and actually the last four questions, are where I start to get a good idea about a patient, where we're going here and that. I look at them and go, the next two questions told me a lot about you, Carlo, and that. I was looking at depth of sleep. I wanted to know, were you getting down into the deeper part of sleep where you're supposed to be going and that, but it is where we're going to see the airway changes happening, and we are going to have the issues going on. I tell them that, look, dreaming happens in REM, short-term memory happens in delta wave, or we now call it N3. I'm old, I still call it delta wave. So bottom of non-REM area. And I just look at them and go, for this conversation, guys, those two spots make up 50% of our sleep. That's how important they are. And what happens is your brain starts to go down through its little sleep cycle. You fall asleep, puts you down into the memory stage of sleep, and all of a sudden your airway starts to change and it kicks you out of there because you're not breathing properly. And each time it does that, it's going to give you this little jolt, and we may hear you gasp, we may not hear you gasp, but that little jolt is going to cause you to move. So now you're going to keep tossing and turning in bed in that. And then if it gets kind of tired of going into that spot, it's going to go try the dream stage. Now, typically what will happen in the dream stage in REM is it keeps jumping out and doing the same thing. But the brain may sometimes start to try to balance this out. It's fighting to get a normal sleep. And it may keep trying to force too much time down into that REM area. And that's where we're going to get the really vivid dreams, the nightmarish dreams, because it hasn't learned how to get out of there. It's still fighting. So I tell my patients that, look, if this was an issue going on and I get your airway, start to get it open up for you, chances are, not promising anything here, chances are you're going to start going back to normal dreaming. Not that you will remember every one of them. We're not designed to do that, but you will definitely be more aware of the fact you are dreaming, right? Then it gets down to the short-term memory. If that was related to the apnea, and 9 times out of 10 it is, if you see O2 sats going below 80, going into the 70s, I'm going to guarantee you're going to start having some short-term memory issues with patients, because the brain is being starved of oxygen here. We need to get those O2 sats, guys, up above 90. Never going to get 100. Don't look at that. Idea would be 92 to 96 in the O sats. Still might have a few events going on, might have a wee bit of snoring, but we now look at lifestyle. All of my medical directors, I'm dental director for the clinics, my medical directors, they look at things and go, you know what? We want the patient's health better. We want their lifestyle better. We want the O2 up above 90. Then we're in a better position. Now maybe they can start losing some weight and get their lifestyle better. But anyways, I tell them that, look, if this was related to your apneic events going on, give it about a month to see how things change. We definitely do see changes in patients, and a lot of our patients in that. Does it all come back? That's independent per patient, but we definitely do see a bit of a sharpening. Is it because you're sleeping better, or you're just getting a deeper sleep, you're more rested in that? We don't know, but wait to see what happens. Don't expect it right off the bat, but we should start seeing some changes. Now, I ask patients, how many times do you get up at night to go to the bathroom and that, or just kind of wake up and look around? And I'm going to tell you right now, the common thing with men I see in their 40s going up to their 50s, they go out, they get up 2, 3, 4 times a night and that. They go to their doctor, they have a prostate exam done, he checks everything out, there's nothing wrong with the prostate, everything's fine. So the doctor looks at him and says, stop drinking all liquids at night. It still keeps happening. And my explanation, the simplest one I can give patients so they can understand it, is that, look, if the brain thinks that you're not getting back to where you're supposed to be, it's going to try harder. It wants you to live. So it's going to give you a bit harder of a knock here. And it may actually take you out of the middle part of sleep, take you up into the lighter level of sleep, so you can start breathing normal here again. Now, problem is that lighter part is on the verge of consciousness, unconsciousness. Your brain is starting to come awake. You don't know it's awake, but we do. It's a bit of an awakening thing. And ever since you were an infant, you were taught not to wet the bed. Thing between the brain and the bladder going on. So the brain starts to wake up, the bladder goes, huh, you're awake, I'm awake. They get up and go to the bathroom. And I see this so often. And that if I open up the airway, chances are they just start sleeping through the night again. But I do explain to them that, look, when you get to be my age in our 60s, it's not unusual to get up once during the night on occasion and that, because we're wearing out. I'm getting old and that, but not get up all the time like that. So now I look at my patients and I'm going to start to wrap up my consultation. I'm going to go, so how do we do this? How do we get things back to normal here? One, try to quieten you down, but more importantly, because of your health risks here. I tell them, look, there's only two ways to do this. When I first got into this field 30 plus years ago, we could suggest surgery. All right. We could arrange through their doctor to go to an ENT, and they would go in and they would remove the uvula. I tell the patients this, they would remove that little uvula there, take out the remnants of the tonsils, the adenoids, remove some of the tissue in the back of the throat there, anything to make more air go back and forth than that. And I look at them and go, I don't know who the sadistic doctor was that developed that technique, but it's the most painful we could ever put a patient through. Take your worst sore throat, multiply it by 10, make it last a month. That'll give you a general idea of how you're going to feel. And then if they remove too much tissue through your nasal passage, you could end up regurgitating your food. Or I'm sorry, if they remove too much tissue at the back, you could end up regurgitating your food through your nasal passage. Great to do at parties, but not all the time. So, and they all just kind of look at me and start laughing, and I go, you know, and the other thing is, we constantly saw patients back for looking for another alternative. So the bottom line is here, don't let anybody ever talk you into doing surgery right off the bat. Keep it as one of the last choices out there. Don't put the cart before the horse. And I tell them that all of my ENT buddies out there, and I have a lot of friends that are ENTs here because I work with them, and that they won't do that surgery unless it's an absolute last resort. I look at them and go, yes, you can have the roto-rooter job done. If you got a deviated septum, you got some nasal polyps. That's a painful one too, but it might help you breathe better during the day. But we're still seeing a tremendous amount of patients coming back. Sorry, give me a second. That's better. Now I can talk in. We still see a tremendous amount of patients coming back having sleep issues. So once again, don't put the cart before the horse. So now this leaves us down to CPAP or a dental appliance. Now, before I continue, I hear from you all the time out there that minute they go to a sleep center, they're put on CPAP. I don't get the patient back. How can I make sure that that patient is going to come back and see me and that, and ton of questions like that. I get the patients in, all right, because I'm empowering my patient. I'm letting my patient at this stage of the game, again, I'm going to start reminding them that you need to be that advocate for your own health. So I look at patients and I go, okay, so our first option out there is a CPAP machine. Are you familiar with CPAP? Oh yeah, I tried it. I can't wear it. That. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm looking right at Carlo as my patient. These are my words, word for word, guys. Okay, I'm going to look at him and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a fan of CPAP. Don't get me wrong. It does work for some patients, but there's a lot of patients out there that can't wear it. And as far as I am concerned, it's been grossly overprescribed, given to patients who never needed it, wouldn't wear it. And a lot are sitting under beds or in closets because the vast majority of sleep clinicians have become what we call DMEs, distributors of medical equipment. They're not going to tell you this, guys, but the truth of the matter is it happens more than you think it does out there. And I've been in this industry a long time and that. So a lot of them have become DMEs. And I look at the patients and I go, it's not right, but it's the way they run their practice. Now, the government subsidizes CPAP machines to a percentage here. And they started noticing, and this is true fact, they started noticing that way too much money was being paid out to CPAP machines. So in doing their due diligence, which is odd for a government and that, they started investigating and found that some of these sleep clinicians actually also owned the CPAP company in that, which is a huge conflict of interest. I'm explaining this to my patients, and those that have gone through and got stuck on CPAP are sitting there looking at me going, yeah, you're right, because they just told me that was my only choice. They know what you're talking about. You're not lying to them or anything. They understand it. But I also tell them that, and this is in my area here, we had Dr. Denny's, Al Denny's. I worked with him for years. He was our sleep clinician and that. But I also knew that Al owned the CPAP company, and that was rumored out there to be happening. Government found out and they took his license away. And I'll tell them, the sleep clinician that you went to, you heard he's no longer there. And they go, yeah. I said, because they took his license away, and he's not the only one. They've taken him away across Ontario to a lot of practitioners. And I look at him and go, like I said, don't get me wrong, it does work for some patients. I'm just not a fan. I don't want to be tethered to a machine all night long. I don't want to have a mask on my face. And I tease them, and a lot of, depending what the patient's like, I'll look at them and go, And I'm still hoping for some romance in my life at 63 years of age. I don't want this thing sucked on my face all night long unless there's no other alternative. And I'll go, thankfully there is. And that's a dental appliance. And I look right at him and go, this is my disclaimer, that's my vested interest. That's who I am. That's what I do. But I never ever tell my patient what to do. I said, it's up to my patient, not up to me what we do here. So once again, tell them that that is your vested interest. You've got, this is your play in it, all right? It's your vested interest, it's what you do, but I'll tell patients every day, it's up to you, not up to me what we do here. Now I'm gonna ask the patient, I'm gonna look at Mr. Zanon, I'm gonna go, Carlo, have you ever had CPR training before? And he's gonna go, yeah, okay. I'm gonna go, okay. So if I asked you to tip somebody's head back and thrust their jaw forward, what was I trying to achieve? And he'll go, open airway. Okay, I said, we all have that ability, all right? We can move a lower jaw forward and open an airway. We in dental just took advantage of that by developing dental appliances that will hold you in that forward position. Now I want this patient to know whether an appliance is going to work for them or not at this stage here, because I'm trying to get them interested in this. So those in the audience right now, you can do this yourself. Make believe you're my patient, because I'm going to tell my patient, I'm going to tell Carlo, I want you to sit up straight. Tip your head back a little bit, not way back. I want you on a little bit of a pillow here. So they sit up in their chair and that. And I'll go, now, make a snoring sound. Just let your jaw relax, but make a snoring sound from your throat. So Carlo's going to go like that. Okay. Now I'm going to say, now push your bottom teeth right towards me and that. Make your bottom teeth touch me and hold them there. And they'll go, now try to snore again. And they sit there and they go, and they'll look at their sleep partner who may have come in with them and go, man, they're getting an understanding right now what's going to be starting to happen here. Now, I'm going to tell you, that works for about 80% of your patients. The other 20% are going to do this. They're going to go and go like that. All right. So what you have that patient do, head back, plug their nose. Now make a snoring sound. Go. Move the jaw forward. Hear the difference in the airway? And I'll look at the patient, I'll go, hear the difference in the airway? They'll go, yeah. I said, what I try to teach my students when I do this is not to listen to the sound of the snoring. Listen to the airway. If I can hear a difference in your airway, Carlo, I'm going to tell you I'm 99.9% sure putting in a dental appliance is definitely going to help you to some degree. To how much, I don't know, because everybody's mouth is different. Everybody else's mouth reacts differently. Yes, I've done over 4,700 patients. Yes, I teach this whole technique in that. I have no idea where to put you, Carlo. I can move your lower jaw as far forward as it'll go and hold it there, and you'll sleep like a baby for a couple of nights. By about the third night, you're not going to like me in that. Your muscles are going to be way too tender, way too thrown out of whack. So the thing I developed years ago, and I get questions about this all the time, how do I take my bites in that? Because we used to measure and figure out 2/3 of the distance. I got tired of taking my shoe off to count on my toes too. So all I do is I tell my patient, I move your lower jaw as far forward as it'll go, and I back up 2 millimeters. I start the patient there. It gives me a really good resolution of the symptoms right off the bat, I tell them, albeit you're not 100%. Yes, you're going to sleep a little bit better, but you're still going to have a few events going on here. You're still going to snore a little bit. So make sure you tell your sleep partner that you're not going to be 100%. But now we let you wear it for a week or two. Let the muscles adapt to it. And usually it's always 2 weeks. All right. We bring them back in 2 weeks to see how they're doing here. So let your muscles adapt. Let everything start to fall into place. You're more comfortable with it. And now we start to move you away from that 90% and see how much closer to 100 we can get you. But don't tell them I'm taking you to 100. How much closer can we get you? See where we can get this to go for you. It's a much better way to do it and a much better response from the patient to that. So now I'm going to show them an appliance. Ladies and gentlemen, you can use any appliance you want out there. They're all the same. Every appliance, even the ones that I developed out there, all of them have a top portion to fit the upper. All of them have a bottom portion to fit the lower, and that some sort of mechanism moving that mandible forward. So I show the patient I like, or not the patient, I show the patient the appliance that I like, And I tell them the reasons why I like it. And I start with the blocks and really have samples with you. Patients want to touch things. People want to see this. They're touch me, feel me. They want to have a rapport with you and that. So that's why this is all one-on-one between you and them. But anyways, I just show them the appliance and, you know, the small blocks on it, you know, how the mechanism, the adjustment points. Always, if you're going to do this, choose an appliance, ladies and gentlemen, that give you multiple adjustment points to it. Every appliance on the market allows us to move the lower 1 millimeter at a time. We developed that years ago in that. Others make it less and less, but the standard is at least 1 millimeter at a time. But you need something that's got multiple adjustment points because everybody's different. And don't be afraid to say that that appliance failed. You got that patient in the chair, you've tried for a few months, 3 months to get them to where you want it. They're not comfortable, too much saliva, things aren't working. Switch them to another appliance, all right? Just go to the lab, say, hey, I tried this one, it didn't work. Make a deal with them to get another one. Don't charge the patient for an extra appliance. It's your job to treat them. Just get them treated in there, all right? Now, other than that, I explain to them how I do this. And one of the other biggest selling points out there is I tell them that I no longer take impressions, I digital scan. Digital scanning is so much faster, so much safer, no taste, no gag reflex in there. But more importantly, I tell them the digital file that I get from that allows us to either mill this appliance down or hand make it down to as small as possible for that patient only. So we've reduced the bulk, we've kept the strength, we put a permanent rubberized liner inside that. It's lighter, it's more effective. And then we just go from there and I talk to them about what the fees are to do this and that. So at this stage, I now have that patient fully involved in this. I look at them, I talk about my fee structure, I talk about a little payment plan if they need it and that. I talk about their insurances. There's a lot of stuff I do in other lectures and that, and I'd love to do one. It takes more than just an hour, hour and a half to do this or whatever. But I look at them, and this is how you finish out your consultation, all right? I look at him and go, Carlo, as I said earlier, it's not my job to tell you what to do. It's my job to help you if I can in that, educate you, get you to be that advocate for your own health, see if there's a reason to do this, and answer your questions. Did I do my job? Or do you have any questions for me? So now I've turned it back over to the patient. And I'll hear this time and time again. As I said, practitioners will tell me patients won't pay. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't normally tell patients that people this, whatever. I charge $2,500 for my service. That's everything. That's the appliance in that, all right? And patients readily will pay that out of their pocket now. Over 70% of patients that I see right now, and I deliver on the average, I'll say 50 appliances, 45 to 55 appliances per month. New cases I start and that, and 70% of that is out of pocket. It all comes down to how do you do your consultation? Talk to the patient. Tori, are you still there, sir? Yeah. Okay.
I need you, buddy.
Your wife called me already. She texted me here. She said, when can you treat them?
Oh,
I
my
said, I
God,
don't know
I've
if I
tried.
can make an appliance that
You know,
big.
this is unbelievable. You know, like, I don't know if there's any questions, but before I let you go, I have a few questions. Patrick, this is maybe one is a comment. This is an amazing revenue stream potential that is underutilized. Okay, the way I see it. Now I'm seeing it from a business point of view. Okay.
Yep.
And I love the way you get that. I love that, be an advocate for yourself. That's really, really beautiful.
It's a
because
key
now
word.
they're making the decision, you know, and it's their health, it's their wife, so on and so forth. You know, do you give, like I told you I want to do a course with you where you teach these guys. Oh, there, Carlo just destroyed your business. He said, Franca tells me that I'm worth more dead than alive. So she doesn't want you to treat him.
Yeah, because Franca wants to come down here and hang out with me on the boat. She wants to be my first date. So
Anyways, so yeah, you know, like, how did you, I think, you know, like when we did the course with Allman, I think one of the barriers that there were mostly denturists, some technicians, denturists that were there, was
Mhm.
Well, how do you communicate with the dentist, the medical doctors? You know, that for them, that was a big stumbling block, you know?
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. We've developed a really good system for dealing with them, partly because few of my clinics, I work directly within the sleep clinic. So I can easily get sleep studies done back and forth. As a dental practitioner, we cannot refer directly to a sleep clinician and that, but I teach students on how to do this. In my one clinic, I will fill out, or actually Nancy, I teach you how to utilize your staff properly and that, and make them worth, you're gonna pay them more because they're definitely gonna be worth it here. But Nancy will fill out the requisition form, send it to the big sleep center in Windsor here. They send it to the patient's physician. Because I've done this for so long, I can do this. The physicians know who I am, know I do my job right. So they just look at it and go, yep, I agree. This patient needs to have a sleep study. And they send that referral. They sign it. I don't sign the referral anywhere. There's just a part on there that says, send the copy to me. So, and then the sleep clinic will call the patient to get him in for the sleep study. In my other offices, my satellite locations, I don't have that advantage because they run their clinic a little differently. So I've just developed a letter that I will send to Carlo's family physician, if he had one. The jerk doesn't have a doctor. So, but I'll have him taken to some walk-in clinic. But so anyway, on that little letter says, I did a consultation today on Mr. Zanon. After a discussion with him, I found that there was a lot of concerns maybe towards an apneic issue going on here. Before I proceed, if I'm going to do this correctly, I really do need to get a PSG done. Do you agree with me? And do you mind just signing this requisition and send it off to the Chatham or the Sarnia Sleep Clinic for me? And we go from there. They always do. And that if you talk to the doctor, let the doctor kind of know you're doing it this way. He's all of a sudden going to be starting to look at his list of things going, yeah, I got a bunch of patients that failed on CPAP, or we can't get them CPAP machines. They start sending them over to you. A lot of mine is word of mouth, tremendous amount from the radio, but a lot too is from general practitioners and dental practitioners. A lot of them are dental practitioners that they'll come in, patient needs to have an appliance, wants to get an appliance, they'll go, look, I can fumble through this, but go see Patrick. He's the premier guy in doing this. Let him do it and that. So they just send them to me.
Yeah,
So-
it's beautiful. I love the fact, you know, like the radio. I mean,
Yeah.
you would listen to me. I listen to, you know, that's how I got to work with Dr. Les Premier. He's a doctor too. You
I know
Les.
Les.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he puts it on the radio in Toronto, right? And then
Yep.
and then you know, like and then out of the blue, you know, serendipity, he called me one day and I said, yeah, let's do the course. And we did it for a few years. And now, you know, I took a break, but you know, like he does a good job. But it's fantastic. You know, this thing. Another question, Patrick, because of what happens during the night, okay, because you're tired when you suffer with this thing, I guess it's really dangerous if you fly a plane, okay, or if you're a truck driver driving during the night, you just go to sleep, or you don't have the air, you just freaking, you know, like, you know, fall the plane and smash the truck, and is that happen? Like, are there studies? That's what I'm going at. Are there
There are a
studies
lot
that
of-
prove that that's an issue?
Yes, there are a lot of studies, but I'm going to take it one step further for you. Tori, if you don't know, I'm an ex-long haul trucker. I put myself through school driving tractor trailer. Carlo knows this because
Yeah.
he used to bring me meals from his mom's place when I'd stop at Keel Street there on my way back.
He's a good
with the
guy.
rig. Yeah, he is
Yeah.
a good guy. He's actually my best friend. In
Yeah.
that. He's a dink, but that's okay. I love him
Mm.
and that. But anyway, yeah, long story short, true story, very quick. Coming back from 2 runs a week to Halifax, single driver. I come back, I get about Brockville on the 401. Construction, 5 miles of construction. They took the eastbound and westbounds, put them side by each. I remember starting the construction. It was a Friday afternoon. I started into it and didn't know anything else till I got to the end of the construction, and those orange and black signs that divided the east and the westbound sign, I clipped 3 of them. I caught the edge of one. I nailed a second on, and woke up just in time to look at my rig heading right towards a car coming the other way. At the size of me, with what I was pulling in that, I would have gone right over top of that car, killed them, killed myself. And I swerved that truck over, kept one last orange and black sign, and limped it down into the first roadside stop there was, pulled way into the back, hid the truck, and fell asleep because I thought somebody was going to call the cops on me. That was in the 70s. That's when I put myself through school. I blew an engine in a rig, and that guy who picked me up was running for a produce company here from Masternardi up here in the Leamington, Windsor area. He comes, picks me up. I told him what happened to me a couple of weeks earlier, and he looked at me, he goes, Patrick, we've known each other for years. He goes, you know, I'm on the same route every year. I do this all the time. He says, I woke up one time sitting at an intersection, pulled right off the 401, sitting at a stop sign on a rural section. Doesn't know how long he was sitting there, and that he was sound asleep, but he drove his rig over.
Yeah, because you know, a lot of the time when you hear about this, you know, this big accidents, it's saying he was going the wrong way on the 401.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean necessarily that that they're drunk. It might be an episode of what you're discussing here.
Yeah. Hey, Tori.
Yo,
One thing here, and this has got nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I am going to hear afterwards, or you're going to hear afterwards, that sure, down where he's at, you know, it's cheaper to run on the radio than it is up here around Toronto. I can't afford stuff like that. Well, yeah, mine are a huge cost in that. Simply do the math. I've already told you, and I'm not going to tell you the numbers. You can add up yourself. I charge $2,500 per appliance in that. And let's just say on average, I do 50 appliances per month. Multiply that by 12. What's my gross in that? You asked, is it a profitable thing that's not being touched? Oh, yeah. Yeah. And if these guys don't get on this, there's going to be other practitioners that will, because we're getting a lot of dentists who are retiring out. Their hands are starting to go a little shaking. All right, little bourbon will stop that. But point is, they want to stay in dentistry, but they can't do the fillings anymore in that. So where do they go? To sleep.
yeah.
And I also hear insurances don't cover this. Wow, that's a load of crap, because Green Shield Canada is one of the best ones out there. Green Shield Canada typically will pick up 100% of the $2,500 if I'm treating the patient for apnea. Nobody will pay for it if it's just snoring. If their airway changes more than 15 times an hour throughout their study, it used to be maybe in REM or whatever, but all of them are going to this 15 throughout the study. And if they've had a CPAP, if they have a CPAP machine and they use that particular insurance to pay for that machine needs to be more than 5 years old. Now, their numbers could be below 15 if they already have that CPAP. If they got in before with an appliance and now they're up for a replacement on that, they can get grandfathered through because it's a continuation of treatment. But if it's a new patient, they got to be past that 15. They replace CPAPs every 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, they do dental appliances every 3 years. All right. We just got audited, a major audit by Green Shield, because they were trying to nail my butt here because they thought we were putting way too many patients through on replacement appliances. Everything's documented. I've got a copy of every Green Shield thing. I've got sleep studies, and don't you do this without a sleep study, or at least start doing it correctly here. All right, because your license is on the line. You screw up, I'm not even going to protect you if you haven't had a sleep study done. All right, I'll help you if you have and that. But anyway, and that patients, if they've got the insurance, every one of them wants to have a replacement at that 3 years because they want something new. They want the newest technology. They want something smaller and that. So there is a huge untapped market. When I got into this, and I see Morty's name on here, Morty got in there as early as I did and a lot of stuff. He'll tell you too that a lot of people out there thought this was a flash in the pan. This was the Marconi of televisions. It's going to fall apart. That's going to happen. Well, this is all I do. My associate Carlo does all the denture work. I strictly treat sleep. And at those fees, that amount, I only work 4 days a week, guys. I don't work Fridays and that. So I have a nice lifestyle and that.
Thank you very much. You know, I would like to thank all our speakers that were phenomenal. You must admit, thank you to Lisa, to Ben, to Patrick. Okay. I also like to thank the company, Central Dental, UDS, and the Plus. Think about, like the possibilities. I love the fact, that you're willing to invest to get more, like the radio ad. That is really nice. And the fact that you're doing with your voice is a big thing. Learn for other people, like, and apply it, apply to how you can do it, so you can create a new revenue stream for yourself. Guys, don't forget, like Spectrum Day Toronto, we have another meeting, I think, on October the 22nd with Milan Jovanovic, okay, intraoral scanning, Mark Chan, okay, he's also talking about scanning and printing, and implant. Benoit Laroche comes back with implant planning design, because we're going to focus on implant planning design this time. So, and I look forward to seeing a lot of you guys, okay, at Spectrum Day Toronto. Remember, it's free. We have 2 rooms for the Dentures, 4 rooms for the dentist, okay, on implants, so you can go back and forth, but the Dentures room are 2 dedicated to you guys, and 2 rooms for the technicians, 1 for hygienist. It is going to be a phenomenal day, and then we'll have entertainment, we got, like, I mean, at the end, and a cocktail. So I look forward to seeing you one-to-one there. I will be sending you the information for SDA next year. Like I said, next year at SDA, I'm also going to invite the dentists, because they are curious. They want to come in. Like, why can't we come in? I got to invite them. They pay the membership. They will come in, and then we'll meet once, face to face. The other ones will be virtual. Again, have a fantastic weekend, guys. I'm super excited to do these things. I'm sure you can tell. And it's just wonderful to learn and to improve and get your brain thinking about the potentials out there. You, Mr. Captain, can I call you Mr. Captain? Okay.
I am the fleet captain.
Okay. Thank you very
Actually, I
much.
am.
I'm glad you also love Carlo Zanon, because he is a good guy. He's a great guy. And guys, we'll see you next time. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
Patrick.
you.
Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.